they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball, I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic gotta say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play the same. Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing. Keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get big right. Cause it can get big right. Cause it can get big right. Hey, please don't play no games with me, I promise I'm too much. Hey, I can never let up even if you had enough. Hey, this ain't for the faint of heart, we always playing rough. I had enough, it ain't luck. I needed a vision, I needed ambition, I needed a mission to beat a submission with no intermission. I see the collision, the crash in the distance, they coming off track, no. Now when they ask what's the motive, don't talk about the show. They all about to see what I mean in the moment. I gotta keep going, I'm shaking the dice and I'm keeping it rolling, they already know. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play the same. Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing. Keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get big right. Cause it can get big right. Cause it can get big right.
Oh, my bad. My mic was muted. I was trying to be quiet in the background. Does everybody hear me now? Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. All righty. Back to what I was saying, which was shouting out to everybody who showed up here in the building. If I'm good, let's move on with the show, right? Shout out to everybody in the building. Like I said earlier, I know there's a lot of content getting made on the online. And if you're here in the morning, man, I appreciate you being here, taking the time out to hear me do my spiel, right? Had to fix my glasses a little earlier. Shout out to everybody in the building. Back to AK Crowder says elevate for sure. You see, I changed the song a little bit. I still got it on deck though. You know what I'm saying? I definitely have it on dog, but I wanted to step it up a little bit, man. Get a little dangerous. Yeah. Salute to Eastside Easy in the building. Says ATP in the building. Blessings. Claymore. Salute to the chat. Salute. Shout out to Ill Will in the building, man. Ill Will got that thumbnail up there right now. Ennis versus Lima. You know we got to talk about it, right? The whole space is bugging right now over Ennis making some moves right now, taking his time with his career, allowing Eddie Hearn to move him in the direction that he feels is going to be the best to build his brand, slowly building him up. I think a lot gets taken away from fighter development, not only in the ring as far as the skill set is concerned, but also in brand development. And I think that's understated a lot of times. And, I know as fans, we want to, see the best fights. We don't want to hear no excuses, but, these fighters have careers to be aware of, and they're taking these things into consideration. And especially today in this boxing space with the new casual fan that's just all over the place right now, just love you today, hate you tomorrow fan. You're not taking these fans into consideration as much as maybe you did years ago. Nowadays, there is a definite business aspect to the game that I think we as boxing fans don't take into consideration. And I don't know if we need to take it into consideration, but I think me as a content creator, I definitely look to take these opportunities to put some perspective on what we're seeing happen in the game. So we're definitely going to be talking about that. Shout out to Here for Boxing in the building. Here for Boxing says, Clay, what did I say on the phone with you and Ray 2 weeks ago? I love Boots. We from the same neighborhood, but damn near. But these latest moves got him looking crazy. Public perception matters. Yeah, you know what, Kev, I agreed with you when we talked the other day on the phone, right? But it's not, it doesn't matter, right? And I think that's what we're going to talk about that today, right? Because it matters to us as we're seeing it, but we really don't know how much it matters until the game plays out, right? As of late, we've been talking about legacy, as legacy starting to be ushered back into the space as this important factor. We got to remember a few years past, maybe even months to a few years past, legacy wasn't celebrated in boxing, right? We saw a lot of fighters make a lot of money when legacy wasn't aligned with the money being made, right? Moves and perception matters, but how is it going to truly look when it's all said and done? Building these fighters up to where they need to be. Now with a new player in the game with Turki Al-Sheikh, things are changing a little bit. We just saw what Paramount did. Paramount used to be Showtime, right? Got out of the boxing game, but jumped into the mixed martial arts game with Dana White and 7.7. We got a lot of things to talk about today, right? But yeah, I agree with you. Perception makes a difference. But this fan base and these people today are controlled a lot more easier, and they're losing respect as far as value. The fan today in boxing is losing their value. Their voices aren't being heard. The industry is going deaf in understanding how to control the energy through AI, through the right marketing on these shows, production. They understand what we might not understand, that in the reality, they're following the algorithm, they're following the numbers, and they're understanding what triggers, what moves the needle. And I think we're watching that happening as we're watching this Netflix start to usher in boxing. You're going to see production at a whole nother level when you see TKO getting involved in it, as far as Nick Khan and the WWE get involved in it, showing how when you think about what the WWE was and is, which is a fake, it's a movie, right? But look how they're able to capture and keep a casual base's attention, where they're making all of this money to the point to where these networks like Netflix and Paramount and these huge networks are looking to get involved with this because they're understanding how to market and move the needle, right? So we got to pay attention to all these different moving parts. We're going to talk deeper about it. Trust me. Shout out Eastside Easy, Coach Eddie in the building. Salute, Coach Eddie says if Andre Ward comes back, he's going to get hurt versus AJ. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I'll tell you this though, Andre Ward has a pedigree and an IQ that is something I'll never sleep on. And Anthony Joshua, as of late, when you look at the way he looked in there with Alexander Usyk, when you look at the way he looked in there with Daniel Dubois, there's a lack of pedigree about him that is there to be taken advantage of somebody with a higher pedigree, right? Punch for punch, and Andre Ward doesn't want to compete with Anthony Joshua, but does Andre Ward carry a certain set of skills, like that movie? What was that movie with my guy Liam Neeson in it? Anyway, does he possess a set of skills that make it very difficult for somebody like Anthony Joshua? He sees something there, right? He says that's a fight he's looking at. He's been sitting back saying he wants nothing to do with boxing as far as being in the ring. He's tempted time from time to time, but he wants that perfect stylistic matchup. Very cerebral person Andre Ward is. I wouldn't sleep on him against Anthony Joshua. Shout out to Go Mile in the building, says was boxing fam. Salute family. Josh told me I was muted. Shout out to Josh Point 803 in the building. Let's see here, going down the list. AK Crowder says can't hear you. Everybody was telling me I had no sound, man. Crazy. Antonio MMA in the building. Salute to you, family. Good to see you. Hope you're in good health. Empty the clip in the building. Salute. Going down the list, man, trying to catch Shelton Moore, my guy. Oh, yeah, for sure. Shelton Moore in the building for sure. Salute to you, family. Let me see here. Empty the clip says people really don't care. People don't understand the bigger picture and how many options he has after this Lima fight. He's positioned in every sanctioning body. Let it play 100%. 100% empty the clip. And we're going to talk about that. And great observation. There's a long game here. It's a marathon. It's not a race. And the reality is right now at this moment, specifically in the American boxing space, we don't have that standout star. We got Gervonta Davis, who's completely disenchanted with the game, and we'll talk about him, of course, as well. Congratulations to him, I guess. The charges were dropped against him. We'll see what he does with him, what he brings back to the boxing space. But, he's hinting at being on his way out the door, not really looking like he wants to be here for the long haul and hold boxing down. On the back end of Top Rank separating from ESPN, on the back end of Showtime and PBC's relationship dissolving the way it has, and watching how Amazon and PBC is moving forward. You got David Benavidez, who should be an up-and-coming star, but, having go find opportunity in Riyadh as of late, at least. There's an argument there to say that Jaron Boots Ennis is the next up to bat and moving very strategically right now, looking at all the options in front of him. The 154-pound weight class division has been waiting on him to come into the division. Eddie Hearn is very aware of this. And I think we're watching chess being played, not checkers. And I know a lot of people are going to be rubbed the wrong way. And I know we got a lot of fanagers and a lot of people out here on this side of the microphone where I'm at as a content creator or as a boxing fan who would bet all their money on their ability to manage these fighters' career better than the fighters are managing their own careers. But I think we might be smarter to do what Empty the Clip saying, sit back and watch this play out. Shout out to Big Sarge in the building. Salute, family. Salute. Mr. Big Play Bray says, on the outside looking in, Boots either don't want the people handling his business. Don't what the people handling his business is doing, or he knows and just going along with it. If he like it, I love it, because he's the one taking the hits in the ring. I agree with you, Mr. Big Play Bray. I think Boots and a lot of fighters you're going to start seeing, like the Shakur Stevensons, Terrence Crawford, in my opinion, was one of those guys who opened the door to that mentality of betting on yourself, moving out on a limb, even though the whole world is against you. If you're going to fall on your own sword, fall because of what you did. Don't allow the public persona or consensus of how you should move be the reason you fall, because it's real hard to deal with falling because of what somebody else, because you followed somebody else. Trust me, it's way easier to deal with and digest moving how I want to move. And if I fail, I know I did what I wanted to do. Floyd Mayweather had a moment on a private jet with Gervonta Davis where he was explaining to Gervonta Davis, move the way you want to move, do what you want to do, because these fans are here today, gone tomorrow. And like he said on that video, he had a private jet. He said, this private jet, I made over $1 billion in boxing. And the reason I did it is because I did it the way I wanted to do it. And I think we're watching these fighters like Jaron Boots Ennis, like David Benavidez too, who's also betting on himself and moving on to greener pastures, right? And not allowing a box to be put around his opportunities, right? We got a lot to talk about, man. We really gonna talk about it. Trust and believe. Shout out to New Country Guy in the building, man. Pawn or 04Q in the building. Salute to you, family. Taken, yes, Empty the Clip. Taken. I possess a certain set of skills to make you motherfucker. Yeah, anyway, right? Oh man, Pond 04Q says Kovalev and Boom badly hurt Ward. Imagine AJ would do. We'll talk about it, man. We're gonna talk about it. Trust me, man. New country guy, sup Clay. Rick Tim's in the building. Salute to Rick Tim's in the building for sure. Fall on your sword. Is that a pause moment, Pond? Pause worthy moment. Fall on your sword. I don't know, man. I don't think everything gotta be paused. I don't know. At the end of the day, bet on yourself, man. Bet on yourself. Eastside say Boots got more fights than Tank, man. If we're going to criticize Tank for who he's not fighting, even though he's actually accomplished more in the sport, Boots got to get to work too. And I mean, we'll talk about it, right? There's a difference. I think the big thing with Tank is he's ready to walk out the door, right? That's the big thing with Tank. We've been, I think the biggest nightmare for me as a boxing fan, I'm going to speak for me specifically. Tank Davis is such a generational talent. We watched him move through his career and watched Floyd Mayweather move him through his career. We watched him make his own decisions and Tom Brown allow him to move around. And we got impatient as a fan. I got impatient as a fan because as he was getting older, it started to become more and more evident and clear that he just wasn't going to fight the fights I wanted him to fight, right? The fights that I wanted to see him, it started to become more and more of a reality that these fights might not happen. And that became a very frustrating moment for me because I invested a lot into seeing and watching Gervonta Tank Davis develop into the fighter I believe was a generational talent, one of the best fighters in the game. I mean, on a historical level, Hall of Fame level, what I thought he could accomplish. As a boxing fan, that's what I want to see more than anything, is to see the generational talents accomplish the great things. You want to see history be made. And as we watched Gervonta Tank Davis move in his career, we started to realize he wasn't going to probably make these fights happen. And then when he announced potentially retiring and being done with the boxing game, you started to feel a little bit of you start to feel swindled a little bit as a fan. Be like, oh, he's really going to do this. Like, we supported him. We paid for the pay-per-views. He made these big paydays. We thought, and then he's going to walk away and not give us what I thought he said. I felt like he said he was going to give us these fights. And it just didn't happen, right? So with Jaron Boots Ennis, I don't get that feeling, right? I don't see him leaving anytime soon. I don't feel like these fights aren't going to happen between him and Virgil Ortiz, or between him and Bakram or whatever champions, or even him and Brian Norman, who's at 147 now still. I still believe these fights are going to happen because I think Boots wants to make these fights happen. I think he has a promoter standing next to him who's going to help facilitate that. So I don't feel that feeling that I do with Gervonta Tank Davis, where I feel like he's leaving and I'm not getting anything that I wanted, right? So, I mean, it is what it is. I think there's a little bit of a difference there. And I think somebody like a Jaron Boots Ennis, when we pay attention to the journey he's been on from his relationship with Cameron and Steven Espinosa and that whole Showtime PBC split nasty debacle that we saw him in, when we see how he got frozen out just a little bit as Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence figured out their differences. You kind of understand and kind of root for him to a certain degree to go ahead and tap into the activity that's in front of him because he has so many options. The question is, how does he take these options, in what order, and how does he allow it to happen at the same time, still pushing for legacy, still pushing to get titles, still looking to unify, become an undisputed champion, still looking to get that on his record. Look at how the pieces are being moved as we're seeing him ranked so high in the WBC rankings. We're seeing where he is in the WBA, the WBO, and we're starting to realize the pieces are being moved in the background. And we have to ask ourselves, is Jaron Boots Ennis a fool for sitting back and allowing these pieces to move as he's seeing things every 2 to 3 days develop in his favor? The fans are losing it over a fight with Virgil Ortiz, but are we paying attention to the announcements that are being made with his rankings in the WBC? Are we paying attention to the announcements that are being made as far as Virgil Ortiz and what he's doing in the WBC? Are we watching these moves being played in the background, and are we giving him accolades for this happening? And at the same time, are we also holding other fighters accountable for not taking fights, for wanting these big outlandish paydays, who are looking for life-changing money to fight Boots Ennis? And while we sit back and we say Boots is ducking all these fighters, if there are indeed offers being made and olive branches being put out there for fights being made, why aren't those fighters jumping on the realistic opportunities that are in front of them? Most of these fighters getting these offers are not seeing these paydays, 500,000, 250,000, 300,000. Most of these offers to these particular fighters are these fighters' highest paydays, but they feel like they should be closer to $1 million, life-changing money, right? So, I mean, we'll talk about all those different things. There's so many different things happening in front of us. Boots, who's not even a pay-per-view fighter yet, still fighting on free platforms, right? These fighters who have never themselves fought on pay-per-view as well, asking for purses that are, really, we have to ask ourselves, how realistic is it? We're watching Teofimo Lopez right now, who looks like, in my opinion, has first priced himself out the game. Secondly, burnt so many bridges on that road while he was pricing himself out the game. These fighters, do they have realistic expectations for what they've accomplished, where they're at right now, and what it's going to actually take as far as sacrifice to get to the level they're trying to get to? I'll talk about all that, right? Shout out to Benny Bronca in the building. Salute to you, fam. Chris Brooks in the building says, haven't got a notification in a minute. I'm in the building. Salute my brother TR. Yeah, man. I don't know, man. I'm trying to invest in some real help as far as technical help on managing this YouTube channel and making sure that I'm optimizing everything that I can optimize. I suck at this. I'm a technical goofy. I don't know. I'm horrible at this. You know what I mean? So I'm happy you did get the notification. I don't know what I did to make it come through this time, but I'm happy you're in the building, Chris. No doubt, man. Let's see here, man. Nobody knows what T.O.'s doing, including T.O. Yeah, we're going to talk about T.O., man. We are definitely going to talk about T.O. for sure. So let's see. Where do we start? Where do we start right here, man? We also got an undercard reveal with the Terrence Crawford situation. Let's talk about Tank. Let's give Tank his props right now. Victim drops charges on Tank Davis. I actually wanted to pull up something here. Let me see if I can get to it here. Bear with me, guys. Ring. I wanted to read exactly what happened with this whole entire case in Dade County, Miami. Seems like the victim has moved on from that situation. Let's see here. And I mean, this happened before, right, guys? We saw another situation with this same girl, and ultimately end up dropping the charges. Now, we understand that when they're dropping charges, it doesn't mean that Gervonta Tank Davis is super innocent, or you know what I mean, or anything like that. But it does show for us as boxing fans, what it shows is that this is no longer hovering over his head. And hold on one second. This is no longer hovering over his head, and he should be able to get back to the business of boxing, right? He should be able to get back to the business of boxing. Ring Magazine puts up an article about this here and says, the domestic violence case against Gervonta Tank Davis has been dropped after the alleged victim declined to prosecute. This is what TMZ reported on Tuesday. Davis was accused of hitting his ex-girlfriend in the head and slapping her on June 15th in South Florida, and was arrested and jailed on July 11th. The alleged victim, the mother of Davis's two children, told Doral police that the incident occurred after a verbal argument. He was picking up his children. Davis was released from the Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center on $10,000 bail, was charged with 1 count of battery, and the court hearing was scheduled for the 29th of July, and the arraignment was set for August 12th. The Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office released the following statement on Tuesday. The case is dropped as the victim is declining to prosecute, per the victim's attorney, Lindsay Chase, and her sentiments were directly confirmed by the assistant state attorney handling prosecution. The witness to the incident, who's the victim's mother, also failed to cooperate and failed to appear after being subpoenaed for a pre-file conference on Thursday, August 7th. Following attempts to contact the witness mother via phone was unsuccessful. The incident itself was not observed by the police officer who had been called to the scene, limiting him as a possible witness. So that had transpired. Davis, who is 30 years old, has had multiple run-ins in the law in the recent years. According to Baltimore Banner, the WBA light champion remains on probation following a 2020 hit-and-run incident, blah, 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 blah. So what are we looking at here when we're watching this? It's very simple to me. Business was handled accordingly. The baby mother has no incentive on prosecuting the provider in Gervonta Tank Davis, who I'm sure is worth a lot more to her as an active fighter. And maybe an agreement was probably reached that benefited the victim in this situation. And here we are to where it matters for us as boxing fans, which is, what does that translate into for Gervonta Tank Davis and boxing, right? Does Gervonta now become this more available fighter? What is he going to do? Rumors were circulating already about him potentially fighting Manny Pacquiao. Maybe he goes to 140. The Roaches, Lamont Roach Sr. and Jr., communicated that they felt this fight wasn't going to even happen anyway, as Gervonta Tank Davis never actually signed his side of the contract. This, according to Lamont Roach, who recently came out and pretty much asked the content creation space and the boxing fans to stop bothering him about this fight, as he doesn't think this fight is going to happen. So the question is, where's Gervonta Tank Davis going to move from here? His personal life with his domestic violence issues and things of that nature really don't concern me that much. Can't put but so much into that. The only thing I can walk away from that situation is, all right, so now your hands are no longer tied. The PBC should no longer have any concerns about how these charges are going to affect his availability. What's next for Tank Davis? If it's not going to be Lamont Roach, where does he go with this at this point? Or is it going to be Lamont Roach? And if it's going to be with Lamont Roach, when is it going to be with Roach? As Roach has been sitting idly waiting for information to come from the PBC side, from the Tank Davis side of the conversation, as far as when he can accept or expect to be back in the ring. Now, does Lamont Roach hang back and wait, or does he move forward and take an opportunity? Maybe Tank even takes in hiatus from the space, as the last time we saw Tank in the ring, we saw confusion from the corner with a new corner head trainer at that time and Barry Hunter. We saw indifference between Gervonta Tank Davis and Calvin Ford. We heard rumors of issues in the ranking structure between Calvin, Kenny, Tank, and how Tank was going to move forward. And of course, we saw Tank Davis not making it easier for us as fans, speaking towards retirement. So, and we've heard Tank talk about wanting to get therapy, right? So does Tank take an opportunity to step away from the game for a second and address some inner demons that he might be dealing with, or at least get the team organized into a space to where we can see a uniformed team effort in team Tank Davis come, so we can know what he's going to do with boxing? We just watched Manny Pacquiao run a draw with Mario Barrios for his WBC title. A lot of people were talking about rematches there. I'm hearing rumors of Manny Pacquiao maybe even fighting a Rolly Romero and challenging him for his WBA title. So Manny's definitely not trying to leave the game anytime soon. Some might argue a super fight between Gervonta Tank Davis and Manny Pacquiao would be a big seller, big money maker, obviously, for Gervonta Tank Davis as well, who's made it very clear that he is about making money, right? That he's not caught up in the legacy. And the money fights in front of him would look like they'd be one of a few fights. A, Shakur Stevenson, which is the big fight everybody wants to see. B, Manny Pacquiao, which we know Manny Pacquiao is a draw and brings a whole country with him, right? And maybe see, a big fight at 140 with a Keyshawn Davis or a Teofimo Lopez or one of those guys. I'm not too sure how that would draw as far as on the casual side of the conversation. But we got to sit back idly and we got to watch and be patient, right? We got to be patient and see what Gervonta Tank Davis is going to do. Congratulations, Gervonta Tank Davis, for being able to find a way out of this situation. I'll just share, I hope you figure out a way to deal with this situation for the long run, not just for this case. Listen, man, domestic violence and toxic relationships, man, these things right here take you out of the game of life, not only in the game of boxing, but the game of life. So I hope they figure out a way to cross this bridge in a way to where they can coexist as parents for their children that they share together. And at the same time, find a way to deal with some uncontrolled emotional discipline, right? Between both them, the mother and Tank. I don't know their business, but this can't be a good look for you guys for the long run. You guys got 2 young children that you're raising. Sticky situation. Good luck to that. I'm more so interested in the boxing part of the game. We got to wait and sit back and see what Gervonta Tank Davis and the PBC put together for us as fans, to entertain us as fans. Salute to everybody popping up in the building, man. We got a lot, man. Salute to my guy, Just Do Boxing in the building. Just Do, man, an official platform for real boxing talk, real boxing update, latest and greatest news. My God, just do boxing, man. Salute, 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 man. Ross Cott in the building says, Tank Legacy's cherry picking. He can retire and no one will care. I think his fans are going to care a lot. I'm not going to lie to you, Ross Cott, but I agree with you. Look, me personally, on the odd test, I rank Tank at the highest level, but I'm not going to hold you, and I don't, people are going to disagree with me, but yeah, no, he hasn't done enough in the ring for me, to cement and have real legacy conversations. The legacy conversations for Tank right now would be entertainment, influencer, as far as his influence on the game, great boxing skills on the eye test, exciting fights that I've seen from him. I have to acknowledge how exciting the fights have been, but also a lot of turmoil, a lot of issues, domestic violence, hit and run, outside of the ring issues, breakdown inside of his team, rumors. I'd love, in an ideal situation, I'd love Tank to just dial in. If he's going to continue boxing, I'd appreciate him to dial in for this next 2 to 3 years, make as many great fights as you can make, and we'll talk then. But until that happens, I wish him the best. I hope he figures it out. I hope he finds something he can be passionate about. Pick yourself over everybody else. I will totally co-sign that. I subscribe to that. Pick yourself over everybody else. If boxing truly is taking away more from you as a man than giving, then make your decision accordingly. We'll deal with it however you decide to handle it. We'll deal with it accordingly. But yeah, as far as legacy and things of that nature, I want to see more. I want to see more personally. Everybody else is allowed to is allowed to have their own opinions about how they want to approach it, right? It is what it is. Let's move on also to Teofimo Lopez as of late. Guys, I was talking about Teofimo Lopez on this mission that he was on for a long time. We've been watching Eddie Hearn, Bob Arum, just people who have spoken on the experience of working with Teofimo Lopez and this delusional space that he's been operating in. And what's the delusional space with Teofimo Lopez? The delusional space is that Teofimo Lopez is this decorated fighter, prize fighter, who's worth so much more money than he's being offered, that he's legitimately retired from the game. He's tried to starve the game of his presence. He tried to return into the game and troll the game and run antics. He's publicly went on Twitter and gone at it with his promoter and Bob Arum. He's gone at it with fighters, trolling for the fights with Terrence Crawford, trolling with the fights with Jaron Ennis. He's made a whole lot of, he's shaken up a lot, because at the end of the day, one thing Teofimo, if he wants to say he's been successful in doing, is he has been a part of the conversation in American boxing for the last few years. And he's made it clear also that boxing doesn't have too many options. He's one of the options. Boxing Top Rank, who's negotiating for new network deals. Boxing in general, American boxing specifically, doesn't have a lot of options, and he's tried to leverage his influence in that way to pressure the game into giving him something that most promoters in the game felt like he has not earned. And now going into an even more cringe version of himself, where he's completely jumped into the racial clickbait triggering game. He's calling people monkeys, and he's rhyming words like liquor and nigger, and we're having a hard time deciphering which word is he saying, so we understand completely what he's doing, and trying to trigger and isolate and speak at a race and trigger that race into pushing for their best fighters to fight him. And one thing he hasn't done is he hasn't been very interested in fighting the fights that are there for him to fight, right? He's not interested in unifying his own division and fighting a Subriel Matias, or fighting a Hitchens, or fighting a Devin Haney, or fighting fighters that were there in his weight class, 140 pounds, a weight class where he's a WBO champion and a lineal champion in. And if he is going to fight these fights, he wants the biggest paydays. And he's ultimately, in so many words, priced himself out of some great opportunities. And as of late, guys, we saw Shakur Stevenson speaking about fighting Teofimo. Said he was willing to fight him. Let's make it happen. But we're seeing like there's been a little bit of a freeze up in that negotiation. We saw Teofimo point his direction and put Ryan Garcia in his crosshairs, but Oscar De La Hoya doesn't seem that interested in that fight. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not too sure now that he's burnt bridges with Turki Al-Sheikh, now that he's at odds with his promoter in Top Rank with Bob Arum. I'm not too sure who's willing to get behind Teofimo right now and help facilitate any of these opportunities. And I think Teofimo's in a situation where his options are running dry, and I'm interested in seeing how he's going to deal with it. This whole entire Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo fight coming together, it sounds great on paper. It sounds great. I love the idea of it. I would love to see those guys fight each other. But Teo's made himself nobody really wants to do work with Teofimo right now. And fighters like Teofimo, activity make a difference for those guys. I would make an argument that I haven't seen a Teofimo Lopez. The Teofimo Lopez I've always referenced as this great fighter is the Teofimo Lopez I saw fight Vasily Lomachenko, and the Teofimo Lopez I saw fight Josh Taylor. I haven't seen that Teofimo Lopez in a long time. He looked regular against Arnold Barbosa. He did a good job, but he looked regular. He looked good, but he looked regular to me. Nothing special. He looked pedestrian against Steve Claggett. There's an argument there to say he lost against Jermaine Ortiz, who was exposing Teofimo as a fighter who couldn't cut the ring off and just lacked that. I saw a disconnect, relationship between him and his father that was dysfunctional at times, but still seemed organized up until the Kambosos fight, right? You've seen him in the Vasily Lomachenko fight listening to his father, but as we watch over the years, Teofimo Lopez has become his own entity outside of his father. I don't see strategy in the ring. I don't see anything special, any development. I don't see him getting better. I think there's arguments there to say he's gotten worse. Take it for however you want to take it. We see Sandor Martin expose him. We've seen him not be the fighter that I saw against Vasily Lomachenko. And now, in a space where if you ask me today, what would it look like for Teofimo Lopez to fight against Shakur Stevenson? I know people are going to lose their mind when I say this, but I would give Teofimo Lopez a puncher's chance in that fight. I would say there's an argument there to say pedigree-wise, he's digressed into a space to where I don't think he would be able to compete with Shakur Stevenson in a pedigree way. I think his team is disintegrated. I think the ability to build a strategy and study video and fight a certain way and have an A plan, a B plan, a C plan, a D plan, and be that fighter with multiple wrinkles in their game, multiple tools in their bag, which is the type of fighter I think you need to be to fight against a Shakur Stevenson. I don't see what on his side of the conversation offers me any confirmation that he's going to be able to accomplish those things. We watch Eddie Reynoso walk away from Teofimo Lopez. The antics are not for everybody. All right. The better than thou vision of yourself is not for everybody. The people who control the money and who control where this game is going into are not buying into the Teofimo product. They're just not. Right. And the question is, where does that leave Teofimo Lopez? As I see Teofimo boxing fans, shout out to Punch Drunk Boxing, man. Much respectfully to Punch Drunk Boxing, really knows his boxing. But he's been left to sit here and fight for Teofimo's legacy for him, to speak on behalf of Teofimo Lopez. And in many ways, I feel bad for you, Punch. I think you're doing a great job, right? But he's not giving you much to work with, right? He's not giving you much to work with because you're out here fighting for him and trying to make an argument as far as why he should be put in these big fights. But what is he doing to support your support? How is he helping you out and giving you what you need to feed the space what the space needs in order to get behind your fighter in Teofimo Lopez. You want Turki Al-Sheikh to step to the side and leave his religion and his nationalism for his country and the thing that he's prideful about, to leave those things outside of the conversation, but you guys still want his money. You want him to put his money behind your product, but you want him to do that at the cost of the respect that he has for his country. No, people like Teofimo Lopez, if they're going to jump into those type of opportunities, they need to have their own money. They need to have their own promotional companies that can facilitate and not only make the big fights, right, but put the money up behind the fights for them to happen. If Teofimo is not able to do all those things, then Teofimo needs to learn how to be way more humble. And a cheesy apology and whatever else that he has planned on trying to get the respect of Turki Al-Sheikh. Listen, we're all born with discernment, ladies and gentlemen. And that discernment is God given to us for a reason. Because in a world where people are manipulating us through fake education, through indoctrination, through conditioning, and things of that nature, our discernment is that thing we have in us, like the electricity that keeps our heart beating every morning that we can't figure out the exact science of. That discernment is perpetual. It just is in us. And a lot of these people in the world would like you to ignore your discernment and allow them, their words, to hold more weight than their actual intentions are holding. And I think when you're looking at Saudi Arabia and you're looking at a country that stands on morals, stands on spiritual, they're loyal to their God, right? They're loyal to God. They're loyal to their faith. They're loyal to their nationalism. They put those things above making money. You're looking at Turki Al-Sheikh, who's put up so much money behind making these fights, $100+ million for Tyson Fury, $100+ million for Alexander Usyk, close to $100 million for Anthony Joshua, making these big paydays as people try to figure out what is the science, what is the mathematical equation, where is the business acumen behind putting up all this money. And most people believe that these guys aren't even recouping that money to break even, no less make a profit. These people run on a different engine, a different mission statement, and disrespect to Saudi Arabian, to Islam, to the Saudi Arabian country. It's not all about just make the fight. There's a lot of honor and integrity involved in this new wave, this new entrance of this new era that's being ushered into boxing. In Teofimo Lopez's team and the people who are interested in Teofimo Lopez's career, who have vested interest in his career, need to find a way to break through to Teofimo Lopez. And if they don't break through to him, then I have fears that they're not going to want to hear about for his career and for his future, right? It is what it is. Salute to everybody in the building. We got 55 people in the building. Please take a moment to make sure that we're hitting that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, take a moment to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Shout out to my guy here for boxing, put some color in the chat. Oh yeah, guys, I keep telling you guys, support the channel, man. Put some color in the chat, man. Every little thing counts. It helps. I keep telling you guys, we got new things coming. You've watched the channel develop. We're going to continue developing the channel. I'm about to put in a phone line, by the way. So we're going to open up the phone lines and have people who don't necessarily want to jump up on panels and argue with people who just want to give their opinion, give you an opportunity to have a phone line that you can call in on and speak your piece. I love the idea, and I love the way that's working out for the Boxing Voice. I love the way that works for Coach Malachi. So that's getting ready to be implemented in. So yeah, support the channel, man. Support the channels who support World Championship Boxing. All right. Salute, salute, salute. Here for boxing, giving you guys the best advice. This is the best advice that anybody can get right now, is make sure we smash that like button. Benny Bronca, also known as the Cardena, says, I like Mayweather as a fighter, but he messed up boxing financially, in my opinion. 100%. But let me turn up, put the hazard lights on, because I agree with you. But at the same time, I think we got to stop putting the blame on Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather did what he wanted to do, what he had to do to take care of his family, and he came out on the other side making over $1 billion in boxing. We have to hold other grown men accountable for what they do. We can no longer, and we should no longer, put the influence of a Floyd Mayweather on the way he approached his own career as to a reason as to why grown men are making the decisions they're making that are affecting their careers. So shout out to Floyd Mayweather, who did great with his career, but these other boxers who are trying to follow a blueprint, partially, by the way, partially following a blueprint, because they're not going to talk about the Pretty Boy Floyd chapter where he built his brand up to be able to do what he did in his Money Mayweather chapter, right? But those fighters are grown men. We got to hold them accountable, man. We gotta hold them accountable for what they're doing. You know what I mean? Let's see here. L-Dub Boxing, the plug in the building. Salute, L-Dub. Salute, Dub. Dub, who's always letting us know the information. Dub's information super accurate, well-researched, well-referenced before he says anything. And he has a very, very, very high percentage ratio, success percentage ratio as far as predicting or calling things out that are getting ready to happen. L-Dub has become a straight up resource to this boxing space, to my channel specifically, but I believe to all channels across the space, and it's become a very, very, very credible source of information, man. So shout out to L-Dub Boxing. Want to take a moment to celebrate him for what he's bringing to the space, because he's an understated resource to the space, man. We appreciate you, man. Desi Sanchez says, if they had a contract with Tio, don't they have to honor it regardless? I mean, look, contracts are to be honored. Contracts hold weight in the court of law. In business, contracts are everything. We're not there for the contracts that are being made. You know, just to speak frankly, on an outside looking in kind of way, if somebody wants to sum up a contract for us and basically tell us that the contract is saying A, B, and C, what we don't know and what makes the biggest difference in contracts are the fine print, the intangibles, the amendments, the loopholes, the safety contingencies that are put in there to protect companies, to protect fighters, what's being negotiated. Contracts are pages and pages and pages and pages long with all types of little fine print things going in there. And those things make the biggest difference when you're talking about two people who have signed a contract having issues with the way business is moving in between them, right? So we don't know. So does a contract, if he has a contract that says something on it, does the other person who signed the contract have an obligation to uphold what they signed to do? Yes. But we don't know what Teofimo's also been contracted to have to do. I've heard rumors of Top Rank checking the boxes and being in compliance with the contract they signed with Teofimo just by offering him a Sabril Matias, right? Just by offering him a Steve Claggett, just by offering him fights and keeping him and giving him an opportunity to stay busy as a fighter. They may be checking the boxes. Do they have an obligation to make the biggest fights for Teofimo Lopez? Right? I don't know. Clearly, whatever agreement Teofimo Lopez had with Turki Al-Sheikh wasn't something on a contract level. Looks like there was some handshakes and some understanding that was happening between Turki and Teofimo Lopez, but it doesn't look like Teofimo Lopez has any legitimate documentation to back up his stance with a lawsuit or with some enforcement to be able to enforce it through a court of law or things of that nature. It looks like, you know, Turkey or Saudi Arabia or Riyadh or Ring Magazine check the boxes for themselves, and it looks like they have no obligation to do anything more than what they've offered Teofimo up until this point. So it is what it is. I don't know, man. Contracts are very interested, very finicky, man, and you got to make sure you got the best of the best. Sometimes when, you know, you talk about a fight in the ring, how about the fight between your lawyer and the lawyer of Ring Magazine and the lawyer of Top Rank? Make sure your lawyer has that pedigree, you know what I'm saying? Has that pedigree about him to be able to compete on that high level, and that he doesn't just get run over at the negotiation table, just trying to collect that I can't remember the name of the money, but that retainer fee that you're offering him, right? It is what it is. Let's see here. Ray Davis, break down that tank, and not Ray Davis says Tio has a contract with TR for one more fight. The ring ambassador is just giving opportunity, not really a contract per se. Exactly, Ray. Exactly. 100%. RC says, break down that Tank and Amazon contract again. LOL. We can talk about it. I don't know what happened in that whole entire contract, right? But I think that's an interesting contract because clearly Tank thought he had some sort of an agreement with Amazon in the PBC, but clearly that's not what it is, right? That's not what it is. You know what I mean? I don't hear Zuckerberg or Gates boasting about their last year's sales. Reality, 100%. Free Smoke says, why is Shakur acting like the B-side though? That's an interesting observation. Let's talk about that. Since he on offer, bro, let's get this thing going. Well, that's an interesting observation, Free Smoke. I really appreciate that, man. Shout out to everybody in the community. I love contributions to the conversation like this one, because that's a real question, right? Where is Shakur stand on his abilities and him using his resources to make this fight happen, as we put it on the back of Teo? And as if we watch the tweets, it kind of looks like Shakur puts it on the back of Teo as well. Well, Shakur's in a situation right now to where he's finally finding himself in position to take advantage of a Turki Al-Sheikh who seems to be very interested in his career. And he's finally getting this world level representation in Eddie Hearn and in Turki Al-Sheikh on a world stage, to where he can make money fighting a bunch of fights, not just fighting the big name like Gervonta Tank Davis and Teofimo, but literally right now, I think if Shakur Stevenson were to put, if Turkey's interested in the fight, Shakur is going to make money, whether or not we think it's a big fight or it's not a big fight, right? So he has all vested interest in standing by Turki Al-Sheikh. And if Turki Al-Sheikh is letting Shakur know and letting the world know that he's no longer interested in working with Teofimo Lopez, well, there's an argument there to be said that if Shakur is going to put the offer out there, it has to be outside of Turki Al-Sheikh. The next question has to be, what is Eddie Hearn? And I don't even know. I don't, if I'm correct, somebody can correct me. L-Dub's in the building. I don't think Shakur right now has an active promotional deal with Eddie Hearn. I think he checked the boxes on all the things they agreed to in that 2 or 3 deal fight with his last fight against William Zepeda. So he might also be on an independent level right now. And outside of Turki Al-Sheikh funding and financing any of the fights for Shakur Stevenson, how much power does Shakur Stevenson as a quote unquote A side have to give Teofimo not only a offer, because I'm sure he can give him a offer, but where Teofimo Lopez sits now at a price point that he's put himself at, does Shakur Stevenson have the resources to satiate Teofimo Lopez's crazy appetite for life-changing money for anything he does inside the ring? Right? I don't know. You know, I think that's an interesting observation, though. I think that's a legitimate observation, though. What is Shakur doing to make this fight happen, and how interested is he really in making the fight happen? And if Shakur is going to make the fight happen, how should the fight look? Because right now it looks like it would work towards Shakur going up to 140 to fight Teofimo for his 140-pound title. What does that really mean to Shakur Stevenson? Is he even looking to get a title at 140? As he's communicated, he has no interest in competing at 140 as a regular fighter. He just wants to make the best fights happen. So Teofimo, he would do at 140, or, you know, the big fights, but he wants to compete and be a champion at 135. So what does carrying a 140-pound WBO title do for Shakur Stevenson? You know, is there an argument there that Teo would have to maybe, you know, take a step back, be humbled, and come back down to 135 to challenge Shakur Stevenson for his WBC title? And how does that look for Teofimo Lopez? Right? I don't know, man. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. But at the end of the day, Teofimo Lopez, hey, man, good luck to you. We've been watching this happen for well over a year now. We've watched a Terrence Crawford fight fall through that never was there in the first place. We watched Eddie Reynoso give him an opportunity to work with him, but ultimately that didn't end up working out. We watched Teofimo Lopez go on social media, Twitter specifically, and communicate indifference with Eddie Reynoso. He communicated indifference with Bob Arum. Now he's communicated indifference with Turki Al-Sheikh. All of these guys were people who could facilitate big opportunities for him. He's gone on his own. And now right now in real time, if you ask me what are the options are fight probably Hitchens, right? Go ahead and use Keith O'Connelly, his manager's ability to facilitate that fight as he manages both Richardson, Hitchens, and Teofimo's career. That's probably the opportunity I would think that they're probably pushing towards. That's what I think is going to happen if you're asking me. What is the payday going to be? I think T.O.'s going to have to take the back seat as far as money's concerned. Maybe make over, it'll be up to Keith O'Connelly to coordinate this, but, maybe 1.5, 2 million max to fight Hitchens. We got to sit back and watch, right? We got to sit back and watch. That's what I'll be doing, at least. I can't call it for him, but he's made it difficult, in my opinion. 100% made it more difficult than it needs to be for the people who are trying to help manage his career. Not giving those guys a lot to work with. Shout out to Punch Drunk again, man. The reason I shot him out is because I respect his commitment and loyalty to Teofimo, and how even though facing the craziest criticism, finds a way to put some perspective on this guy's career that makes him something that the space should get behind. But Teofimo does Punch Drunk no favors. I think the biggest favor he may have done is relax off of social media a little bit. Like, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. He's gone back and forth a little bit with Shakur. That hasn't hurt him per se, but has the damage been too much? Has too much been done to Teofimo's brand and his reputation to be able to salvage that? Yeah, I'm back, I think. Salute to everybody. That was weird. I don't know what happened. I don't know if my finger hit something, or I don't know. It is what it is. But we back. Let's try not to let that detract us. Like I said, Teofimo Lopez not doing any of his fans. He's not doing Bob Arum. He's not doing anybody who supports him any favors. He's hurting his own career, trashing his own career. So we'll see what he ends up doing, what ends up happening for him. So let's go ahead and move on to another point of in the conversation here. Jaron Boots Ennis playing chess, not checkers. We talked about it. We touched on it a little bit earlier. The whole boxing space is going crazy, wilding out on Jaron Boots Ennis, right? Wilding out on Jaron Boots Ennis as Jaron Boots Ennis commits to doing what's going to benefit him in his career. Not being a big communicator. I hear people in the boxing space begging Jaron Boots Ennis for more communication, more transparency. Please let us know what you're doing. We don't understand. We're confused as people who want to support you. You're not giving us anything to work with. What are you doing over there, Jaron? I've heard people bring up Boo Boo Andrade and say the way that he's moving, that he's going to end up on the same path as Boo Boo. And what happened to Boo Boo? Boo Boo's a person who pushed for fights, but took his likeness and his brand and kind of moved a little bit like Teofimo did to a certain degree, not with the cringe talk, but as far as the lack of activity. And it looked like he got frozen out of the game for a bit, right? He became don't touch Boo Boo. I don't think Jaron Ennis is anywhere near that type of conversation. I told you guys earlier, Jaron Boots Ennis is a fighter right now in boxing. Timing is everything in life, guys. Timing is everything. I can't stress it. When you're talking about opportunities, it's all about preparation, and preparation meeting timing. It's almost a game of chance in life. Opportunities come. The question is, are you ready to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes? Right now, Jaron Boots Ennis, in my opinion, is in a place in his career where his timing is finally working for him and not against him. Right? It's working for him and not against him. You know, when he was at 147 and when he was there while Errol and Terrence were trying to figure it out, and Errol had 3 of the belts and Terrence had 1 of the belts, and nobody wanted to move around and do anything because everybody in the 147-pound division was waiting on Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence to figure out their differences. They wanted the division to open back up. We had a bunch of interim champions in Mario Barrios and Stanionis. We saw an interim championship, obviously, also in Jaron Boots Ennis. We had so many different things going on at that time. Jaron Ennis just suffered from bad timing. Although he had a great record and on the eye test said that we wanted to see him in the ring with all these guys, it just didn't work out for him as far as timing was concerned. And people like myself were saying, man, it's just bad timing for Jaron, man. I know he has earned his right to challenge Terrence Crawford, the winner of the Errol Spence fight. He's earned his right to challenge Errol Spence, but for Errol being that IBF champion at the time, he earned it, but you also had to give respect to Terrence and Errol and said they also earned the right to move the way they wanted to with their careers, and they had no real obligation to do anything for anybody. And Jaron had to be humble. He had to be humble, and he had to play his position and recognize where he stood at that time. Well, now things are different for Jaron Boots Ennis. Now Jaron Boots Ennis is a unified lineal champion at 147 pounds. Now Jaron Boots Ennis is in a space where boxing needs, American boxing specifically, needs somewhat of an American, of a savior. And Jaron Boots Ennis checks the boxes. And I'm sure Eddie Hearn is aware of it. David Benavidez checks the boxes. And I'm sure David Benavidez is aware of it. We have young and up-and-coming fighters who are cementing their position, like the Abdullah Masons and the Keyshawn Davises, yes. These fighters that are also making arguments as to what position they're going to play in the helping of the resurgence of the American boxing space. But Jaron Boots Ennis specifically is in a position right now to where he has the opportunity to really make his name a big name in the game. We have to remember that although he's 30 plus fights into his career, that he's never headlined a pay-per-view, right? He's not truly earned the right of being called a superstar in boxing. He's just on the edge of getting it done. And right now, with the momentum that he's built for himself, he has a responsibility to himself, to his family, to the people who have worked with him as far as his father, his trainers, to his boxing fans, to the fans that support him and understand what he's been through, to his fighters that he has under his promotional company. He has an obligation to stand fast, stand tall, and be about his business. Be about that Jaron Boots Ennis business. And I think what we're watching happening right now is chess being played, not checkers. I've been saying that. The moves are clearly being made to position him, to get him in front of the biggest bags of money and the biggest legacy fights that 154 has to offer him. When you take into consideration how fighters have ducked Jaron Boots Ennis in his career and how difficult it's been for him to make the fights happen, I personally don't see an argument there as to why he's making sure he moves strategically, because a fighter like Jaron Boots Ennis needs to move strategically, because if he just sits there and plays the game, he can get frozen out. We watch 147 chew him up and spit him out as far as making it easy for him to make fights. We watch Brian Norman's team go from making $150,000 to $200,000 in a fight to demanding $2 million to fight Jaron Boots Ennis. Demanding it. Then we watch a boxing space turn on him when Eddie Hearn wouldn't hand over $2 million. We watch a boxing space turn on Jaron Boots Ennis when he tried to entertain the boxing space and give exciting fights against David Avanesian and Karen Kukudajian. When they saw him take the chances and he took shots, they said, oh, he's digressed as a fighter. He's getting punched on. We watch a boxing space be so up and down with these emotional roller coaster of opinions, duck talk that's been hovering over his head, jackets have been put on him that I don't believe he earned. And we're watching a fighter who's becoming smarter, more intelligent, and is observing the game from a very objective space now and realizing the things that matter, and also realizing that investing in this current boxing space, this American fan base, this casual American fan base, isn't adding up to the biggest opportunities and the biggest amount of money that he could be facing, that he could be seeing. He's got somebody in his ear who's got enough experience in the game to let him know, listen, champ, there's a way for us to move this. We can move to the heartbeat of the boxing space and what they want you to do, or we can build you up and get you to exactly where you want to get to, but at the same time, build your brand up into a space to where the money in the game is going to be willing to get behind you and pay you the money you deserve. And Turki Al-Sheikh represents some of that money, but there's other aspects of this game as well. The pay-per-view model is not completely dead for every single promotional company. Yeah, we're watching what Dana White has done recently with this Paramount deal. We're watching Turki Al-Sheikh and his stance on the zone as far as making fair fights free, things of that nature. But these fighters are still having to figure a way out to make these big bags of money. And if pay-per-view isn't it, however it ends up developing, I can promise you one thing's for sure, two things for certain. Your value, the eyes you're able to bring onto the sport are going to make a difference in your ability to leverage that on a negotiation table as far as how much money you can get. And I think Eddie Hearn is dialed into that part of Jaron Boots Ennis's career right now. And I think Jaron has subscribed to it by re-signing with Eddie Hearn, right? He subscribed to it by re-signing with Eddie Hearn's. The game plan that Eddie Hearn has put out on the table for Jaron Boots Ennis, Jaron Boots Ennis and his team have found that game plan to be a favorable game plan and a game plan that they can buy into. And they've signed onto that game plan by re-signing with Eddie Hearn. So as a boxing fan, what do? Do we stop asking Jaron Boots Ennis to fight the fights we want him to fight? Of course not. Of course not. Of course we don't sit there and do that. But we have to understand what we have a control over and what we don't have a control over. What we don't have a control over is what Jaron Boots Ennis is going to do with his career. What we do have a control over is our patience or our lack of patience. We can walk away from Jaron Boots Ennis and throw him to the side and say, hey, we're done with the Jaron Boots Ennis game, or we can sit back and watch this develop, and we can take into consideration this man's commitment to legacy, this man's past on what he's done in the past as far as what he's done and also the things he's gone through. And we could watch the game play out. It is what it is. I would ask and put the pressure on the boxing fan to become a better boxing fan, to become more aligned in understanding on how boxing works, and watching somebody like Jaron Boots Ennis get moved around the board like a chess piece by Eddie Hearn. Wish him the best, but understand the difference between somebody who's ducking and somebody who's conducting business. Right? It is what it is. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Shout out to a couple of people who popped up in the building. DGO said Boots definitely ain't cut from that cloth. The dude will get battered after he finally grows balls to fight someone his size. Wow. Yeah, we got some people. We got some opinions in here. Benny says, I believe it will be a fan-friendly fight only for hardcore fans. Yeah, shout out to the aircraft carrier in the building. Dude's ducking career, high paydays, not fight Boots. 100%. And that's another part of the conversation that people don't want to talk about. People aren't talking about these other fights, these other fighters and the roles that they play in these fights not happening. And I'll be honest with you, specifically speaking to Virgil Ortiz, I don't think Virgil Ortiz would duck any kind of smoke with Jaron Boots Ennis. But I think the powers that be, I don't know who this is. I think the powers that be and Oscar De La Hoya and the people who are managing these careers, they're looking to manage for these big paydays. And I think it's also interesting to watch how Eddie Hearn is moving Jaron Boots Ennis right now outside of Turki Al-Sheikh's reach, right? Well, in a space where he's operating where Turki Al-Sheikh's not interested in operating, and so he's gone on his own. They're betting on himself. So you're watching, even with the negotiations that are supposed to be happening between Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Boots Ennis, I'm not sure if Turki Al-Sheikh is involved in that conversation right now, as it looks like Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya are making that a conversation, an invite-only conversation. So we got to see what the game plan is, what the big picture is. But I do think it's diabolical to put this on Jaron Boots Ennis as a duck. It's not about duck. This is about business. Win, lose, or draw, this is about business. And I know a lot of us in here walking around with business acumen and would love to manage our favorite fighters' careers. I would encourage all you guys to go get fighters, man. Get in the game. Go join Manager Marty. You know what I mean? Go manage fighters. And put those strategies you have to good use to make you some money and to make a fighter some money. But other than that, Maybe we should play our position as boxing fans, right? Be a little more respectful and come together as a community to help build this space up instead of being part of the reason the space is being torn down, right? It is what it is. On to the next one. Andre Ward entertains a return. So Andre Ward puts out a video the other day, basically communicating to the boxing space in the world what would bring him back to boxing, as he does seem to have interest on making a return, but he wants it to be the right way. He wants to be the right fight because he's not trying to get into building himself up to becoming a champion and fighting everybody. And no, he still wants to be retired when it comes to that conversation, but he would be interesting in doing something for his legacy. And he thinks a fight with Anthony Joshua checks the boxes for him on that conversation. Where do we stand on that? Where do I stand on it, right? More importantly, before I open the panel up, I'll get your guys' opinion on it. Where do I stand on it? I'm not too interested in it. I'm not too interested in Anthony Joshua fighting Andre Ward. I'll watch it, though. I'll watch it. But I'm not too sure how interested I am in the fight. And the reason I am not too sure where I stand on it for is because if I were to be interested in it, I want to see Andre Ward have at least 1 to 2 tune-up fights for me to get a gauge of what to expect from him, to understand from those 2 tune-ups how much interest do I have in Andre Ward's return to the game. And I'm not too sure he's willing to do something like that. Anthony Joshua, on the other side of the conversation, has a lot of opportunities to make some big things happen in boxing. A potential Rumble in the Jungle 2 between him and Martin Bakole could be an interesting situation. I don't hear people talking about it a lot, but I think that could be a very interesting situation. A fight down there in the Congo. I hear they're rebuilding that whole stadium up, calling it the Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, something or another stadium or arena. That would be interesting, I think, to see him in that fight. I think that the Jake Paul fight is not that interesting to me, but I wouldn't mind watching Jake get clipped. I would hope Anthony Joshua could clip Jake Paul. I think he could, but it would suck to see him go through that fight and not do that. I think Anthony Joshua can get back in the regular boxing conversation as well. He could rematch Daniel Dubois right now, who's coming off a loss himself, and that fight could probably pack out Wembley, right? A rematch there. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there for Anthony Joshua, not only to make money, but also do something that's actually relevant to the current boxing space that we're in and move the needle that way in the heavyweight division. I don't know if I'd see Ward doing anything that interesting for me to make a return and watch him fight Anthony Joshua. I'm not too sure. I don't think I'm interested in it. I haven't found myself interested in it. Who knows? Maybe things have changed for me, right? It is what it is. Desi Sanchez says, why not in the States? Because the American boxing fan is trash. I'm sorry. You know, there's a difference, right? The American boxing fan does not support boxing the way they should, in my opinion. I think when you look at the way the UK handles it in Japan and things of that nature, I think there's no comparison. If you want a crowd and you have an opportunity to go perform in the UK on a big stage, I don't see how you pass up on that. I don't see how you pass up on 80, 90,000 people screaming your name out or booing you even, whatever, in an arena. I don't see how you pick 10,000 fans over here over 50, 60, 70 plus thousand fans over there. I don't know. I don't know, man. Shout out to Bring the Shovel. Said white Americans left boxing, went to UFC and Donald Trump, Dana. Nah, I don't know what white American fans did, but I'll tell you, American boxing fans in general left goofy, cherry picking, politically backed nonsense, no structure, having corrupt combat sports for structured, ranking structure, respected, competitive combat sports. That's what I think the American boxing fan did. I think the American boxing fan walked away from Manny Pacquiao being gone for 4 years and being put up at number 1 in the WBC sanction and body and giving a fight with Mario Barrios and overstepping a Devin Haney or a Conor Benn or anybody else who's ranked in the 147-pound weight class division as far as the WBC ranking structure is concerned, right? Or watching an Errol Spence get dominated by Terrence Crawford at 147 and lose all his belts and not be active for 2 years or for a year and change and get put up at number 1 in the WBC rankings at 154 to fight Sebastian Fundora. Huh? I think combat sport fans have been walking away from that business model for years now, as we've watched boxing be on a trajectory for years now. I think when you look at the content creation inside of the American boxing space, who represent as actual media for the American boxing space, being that you don't see ESPN, you don't see Fox Sports, you don't see these big networks committing energy into the boxing space the way they should, the way in comparison to a UK handles it. I think the content creation and what serves as media to these fighters, for these fighters, have failed American boxing and failed the American boxing fan by not infusing a love for the sport, by not celebrating boxing before a fighter, by not celebrating the accomplishments of a Shakur Stevenson, a Terrence Crawford, a Jaron Boots Ennis, by not a Devin Haney, by not celebrating and pushing these fights up and recognizing the value in it. We've done the biggest disservice to American boxing on a world stage level, as we're now somewhere around 4, 3, and 5, somewhere in that range as far as influence on the boxing space is concerned in comparison to, right, to their peers, right, to Japan, to Eastern Europe, to the UK, to now Riyadh with Saudi Arabia. It is what it is. It is what it is. Horrible matchmaking, cherry pick matchmaking, inflated, padded resumes. Edgar Berlanga, 17 first-round knockouts. Considered himself a superstar in the boxing space. Hardcore boxing fans understood that this man lacked development, lacked discipline, lacked commitment to the sport. And the big fights he refused to make and all the cherry picks that were made to build and pad his resume ended up in him getting humiliated by a puncher, boxer from Saudi Arabia who nobody heard of like that unless you were a hardcore boxing fan, and got him annihilated. As we watch the last Olympics go by, I believe we medaled once or twice and not gold medal, like bronze and a silver. As the amateur boxing space has taken, the Olympic boxing space has taken a huge blow on a world level. And we watch other countries develop, like Eastern Europe, develop their fighters into champions like Alexander Usyk or Vasily Lomachenko or Manny Stanionis or Bakram Murtazaliev or Dmitry Bivol or Tor Beterbiev. As we watch that happen, and we watch the resurgence of a United Kingdom boxing space that really never left, but now getting highlighted as what you want to happen in your country as far as boxing is concerned. We watch them go crazy, and we watch American boxing odds as we watch Tank Davis fight Lamont Roach, and Lamont Roach came into the ring a 1,600 underdog, 1,600 plus underdog. Great fight. Lamont Roach stepped up and showed us something, but we watch Hector Garcia. We watch fights that didn't make no sense. We watch Edgar Berlanga fight a bunch of cherry picks. Watch fighters duck each other. Watch Canelo Alvarez hold undisputed and hold the WBC title and just blatantly not fight his mandatory into David Benavidez. Watch David Benavidez be frozen out of a division that he was running pretty much outside of Canelo Alvarez and have to go find an opportunity elsewhere in the light heavyweight division. Yeah, we're watching a whole entire boxing space that used to be the conversation of boxing be turned into a joke by the way we've allowed across the street politics and the overpaying of one fighter and the destroying of every other fighter around that fire. We watch networks get into boxing, get out of boxing, get into boxing, get out of boxing. As we watch boxing fail over and over and over again at ripping off, succeed at ripping off the boxing fans, but fail at having a successful business model that looks like it would hang for the long run in boxing. Take, and gave nothing back. Yeah, man. So, yeah, this place that American boxing in does not fall on a race. No, it falls on the whole space as a community. As a community. As you watch all these content creation platforms and spaces that you walk around, if they're not covering boxing on a broad spectrum landscape and giving you everything, as we're about to get into the undercard of this Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Crawford, as we're going to talk about Moses Atum and Dillian White, and we're going to talk about that undercard, and we're going to talk about the 126-pound division, the 130-pound division with Raymond Ford. We're going to talk about all these divisions that these fighters are competing in and how it moves the needles in these divisions. If we're not getting news like that, then how do we plan on educating the boxing space in a place to where they don't have to depend on one fighter to be active in order for the boxing needle to continue to move as far as the boxing, stage is concerned? American boxing is dying because we have a super casual fan base who are way more entertained by what's going on in these chats, what's going on these platforms between content creators and between people who are disrespecting each other in a way that I'm not too sure they would do if they were to see each other face to face. We're more concerned and entertained with that than actual fights that are happening in the ring. We're more concerned about the fights not happening than the fights that are happening. It is what it is. It is what it is. So Andre Ward entertains coming back, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to 53 people in the building. Take a moment to hit that like button if you haven't done it. Please, please, please help the channel grow by hitting that like button. We only got 33 likes, 50 plus people in the building. That's nasty work. Let's go ahead and make sure we do that. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, take a moment to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Andre Ward entertains returning. He entertains returning. And I'm not too sure how interested I am in seeing him do that. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he returns. I think he put out the video to get a reaction and to see how people were going to be interested in it. And I think he's going to realize that not too many people are that interested in seeing him come back in that capacity, at least, to fight an Anthony Joshua, right? Maybe he does return anyway. We'll see what ends up happening. What does he say? Coach Eddie says if he fights AJ, he's going to get put to sleep. It's a good chance, man. I think it's a dangerous fight. And I don't know if he needs to put himself in that position to be into that fight, right? What I am going to do is I'm going to put the link out there. Did I cover everything I want to cover? I want to get a little deeper into the Jaron Ennis fight. Oh, yeah, Timothy Bradley. Timothy Bradley has a dream, ladies and gentlemen. Timothy Bradley's becoming one of the biggest influencers in the media space right now as far as this YouTube is concerned. I think he's found himself a home in YouTube. He does well, calling the fights with Top Rank and playing that game, but he's becoming a very entertaining platform to watch, share perspective on boxing. And you guys know Timothy Bradley at first, he's been sleeping on the Haneys, right? He said, listen, man, he saw something in that Haney fight with Jose Ramirez that left him worrying a little bit about Devin, right? I'm going to say that respectfully, right? In a nice way, not hating or not doing, he was worrying about Devin Haney. He said, listen, man, this guy's not the same fighter. We watch him moving around the ring. He was scared to get hit. He didn't want to engage. This guy is damaged goods. And watching Devin Haney put this fight together, or being part of this fight being coordinated between him and Brian Norman Jr., Timothy Bradley said, this is not going to be a good look for Devin. I don't like it. But he had a dream. He had a good night's sleep, woke up in the morning and said, hold up, what? And in that dream, he speaks on Devin Haney knocking out or stopping Brian Norman Jr. That's an interesting dream you had there, Timothy. Mr. Bradley, Mr. Desert Storm, Hall of Famer. What a dream. I don't think anybody's really would have called that out. Definitely conversations about pedigree and Devin Haney winning this fight based on his experience and his boxing acumen, but I haven't heard too many arguments put out there on Devin Haney stopping Brian Norman Jr. My point of view is, hey, man, it's boxing. Anything can happen. And I think there's a lot of intangibles that we won't, a lot of boxes that we don't know how to look at how it's going to end up happening in the fight, because we don't know what Devin Haney we have. And I'm going to stop saying we. I don't know what Devin Haney we have right now. I really don't. Optimistically speaking, I would love Devin Haney to be back, not only the way he was, but dare I say even better. I would love to see him evolve and become even more, add more wrinkles to his game as he's going up in weight now. I happen to subscribe to the idea that Devin Haney stayed at these lower weight classes a little too long. That's where I'm at with it on the Devin Haney conversation. I believe he hung out 135 in a space that kept him depleted. And I think it was hard for that power to translate into anything tangible at 135. And he had to become this boxer who was controlling the distance, standing behind that jab, using his footwork, and at times from the outside looking in, taking advantage of smaller fighters in the way that he could. I thought we seen glimpses of the rehydration clause or the weight cut showing up in a bad way when he fought against a Linares. Or, you know, right? We saw in the Ryan Garcia. We saw the weight cut even in a Vasily Lomachenko to a certain degree at times. The weight cut's been bad on him, and I would like to believe at 147 pounds that this is a stronger Devin Haney. Right? That's where I'm at with it. That being said, on the back end of strength, how does that influence his game? Is he a puncher that we just never knew he could be because he was been limiting himself this whole time fighting inside of that box, inside of these lower weight classes? These things are there. They're there to happen. And Timothy Bradley having some intuition about it. The question is, how realistic is it? I think it is realistic. I think it can happen. I haven't seen nothing in the past from Devin Haney that backs that up, though. I can say that as well. But I know Devin Haney is a very, what's the word I want to use? He is a very clever, intelligent fighter. Very resourceful. Able to make a lot out of a little. Right? And going into this fight, I'm going to be interested in seeing the new wrinkles to Devin Haney's game. Without a doubt. I'm going to be looking forward to see that. And we'll see how that ends up looking for him. You know what I mean? We'll definitely see how that ends up looking at him. But hey, man, I'm into it, man. Great dream. Great dream that Timothy Bradley had. I wonder how Brian Norman's team feels about that dream. Does he feel like he's just dreaming too much? Is some hate going on as Timothy Bradley's had issues with Brian Norman Sr.? Or is Timothy Bradley really tapping into something tangible right now that we're not paying attention to? You watch Shane Mosley, you listen to Shane Mosley, you listen to Devin Haney's team, and you'll hear, and other people as well who have talked about how Devin Haney's a dog in sparring and in the training camp, and how all these guys, Zab Judah, have all favored Devin Haney to knock out Ryan Garcia or knock out Regis Prograis. We've seen little glimpses of what he could be with Regis Prograis, although he didn't pull the trigger and make the ultimate move by stopping Regis Prograis. So is this developing into something that is becoming more a part of his character and his DNA, that he's going to add this to the tools that he has in his bag, and we see this different version of Devin Haney? The aircraft carrier says, y'all know a stoppage can be swelling or facial injuries. It doesn't always have to be traditional KO. 100%. 100%. The aircraft carrier, 100%. A stoppage does not mean he's going to knock out Brian Norman. A stoppage is a stoppage. He can bludgeon that man to death and force the referee to get involved into that situation to stop that fight. 100%. Right? All these different things can happen. You never know. Ross Scott said, let's stop the cap with Haney now. I know, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I ain't going to lie to you. Unbelievable. But Timothy Bradley had the dream, man. Listen, man, you can't sleep on anybody nowadays. You never know, man. You never know, because on the back end of Devin Haney stopping Brian Norman Jr., how does this platform react to that the next day? How do we react to that? If we're so sure, how do we react the next morning on the back end of Devin Haney hypothetically stopping Brian Norman? Will we become more humble then and realize that anything can happen in boxing? Right? We're getting ready to watch Terrence Crawford get into the ring with Canelo Alvarez in September. And Terrence Crawford is going up multiple weight classes, and weight classes are made for a reason, and he just shouldn't do this. This is too much. But on the back end of a victory from Terrence Crawford, where he dominates or he beats Canelo Alvarez, not in some cheesy way where he runs around the ring and the judges find him, no. I'm talking about in a real competitive fight that he wins. Does that reshape our whole entire perspective on boxing? And do we start giving the impossible possible chances for the first time in a long time? Because when Roberto Duran was fighting, it was possible for him to do things he did. When will we tap back into our optimism, into our imagination, into our possibilities to say, man, yes, most of the time, but special fighters do special things. When will we entertain that? Shout out to Desi Sanchez, 1641, says Haney is trapped. If he plays safety first, he'll definitely win, but people most likely won't want to see him again. And if he fights, he might be okay, in my opinion. I got you on that one. You know what was interesting? Watching Shakur Stevenson fight William Zepeda, as I watched consensus be moved around the space that, Shakur Stevenson didn't look good in that fight. And, once again, if you guys saw my shorts, I spoke on it and I said, does your favorite content creator watch boxing? That's a legitimate question. That's not to knock any content creators. I'm not trying to do that, but I am speaking to the people who patronize these platforms and the people who say they love boxing. Is it a requirement that your favorite content creators watch boxing if they're going to talk to you about it? And depending on your answer, can you answer that question? Is your favorite content creator watching boxing? Based off of what he covers on a day-to-day basis, based on the content he's giving you, based on the news and the perspective that he's giving to you on the whole entire boxing space, are you in the knowing or the understanding that he's watching boxing? I think it makes a difference. I think it makes a big difference in what he's able to even give you, or she is able to even give you, as far as credible, quality information on what's going on in the boxing community, even perspective on what's going on. Let me see here. Bubs, what did Bubs say? Bubs came in. Tank charges got dropped. That's not big news, huh? I have a great idea for sure. I can't wait to hear what you think. Yeah, man. Yeah, we spoke about that already. Just ain't as big as news as you guys wanted to be. We gave him his congratulations. We spoke on how we're looking forward to see what he does with boxing. But it is what it is. I don't know how much that whole congratulating thing in this case scenario is something that I'll reserve my opinions to myself, but I'm not into it as much as everybody else is. And it's not that I want him to get in trouble or go to jail or nothing like that. So I don't want, of course, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But I'll just say I hope this man is not just putting his hands on women. I hope that's not the case. And if he is, I want him to get help with that. You know what I mean? I don't know that a case being dropped against him has me feeling like this man was some innocent guy who's been accused of something he didn't do. Where there's smoke. So, congratulations, on that victory, I guess. I hope your future moves dictate that you've learned something from this and that we're moving forward in a way that benefits you on a personal level first. And as far as me being a boxing fan, I'll be waiting on how that helps us as fans as far as your activity as a boxer is concerned. It is what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Yeah, frequent. I mean, like I said, I don't want to make it all that deep because people be like, oh, I don't know. And I don't know. I just not into, I've seen domestic violence. You know what I mean? That is a very slippery slope. Very slippery slope. So I don't know about sitting here and being like, victory, hey, yeah. I don't know about that. For me, that's not where, I'm not there yet. I'm not there. I'm not there at all. I'm not there at all. I'm more so just happy that his hands aren't tied anymore and he can make fights happen. And I'm hoping he uses that to wield his influence and his leverage to make fights happen. As a boxing fan, that's what I'm interested in. You know what I'm saying? I'm being honest. Everything else, hey man, to each their own. But I'm not in celebrating all victories because all victories aren't the same. Yeah, Devontre, no one testified. Exactly. So basically, the victim or the young lady involved in this has decided to pull back on the charges, and the mother has not answered her phone. So that's why. And I think they made it a point. They made it a point to stay that for a reason. If you watch how the article is put out here, and I'll put it out here right here for you guys to see. The article is very clear, right? That Miami-Dade wasn't dropping the charges because they found him innocent. They wanted to be clear that this case was dropped here, right here. I'll highlight it for you guys to see. This case was dropped as the victim is declining to prosecute per victim attorney Lindsay Chase. And her sentiments were directed, confirmed by the assistant state prosecution. And right here, you see it says the witness to the incident, and they're letting you know that this is why the case was dropped. If you want to know why it was dropped for these reasons. It's not dropped because we found this guy innocent. Right here, they confirmed that the incident itself was not observed by the police officer who had been called to the scene, eliminating him as a possible witness to what had transpired. So they're letting you know right there that their hands were forced in this decision. This wasn't something that where justice is served. This is more so, hey man, if you like it, I gotta love it. If you're not gonna say nothing, what can I do for you? So like I said, I hope that that's not the case. Right? I hope it's not the case that that's actually what's happening. And if it is, I hope that it's being addressed. I hope that this is not being looked at as a victory to where you're over celebrating to the point to where you have no problem continuing to do something that at this point, if you are doing it, there's an argument to say that the victim is enabling it by the lack of accountability of their role they're playing in allowing this to happen, not only to them, but also to the children that are involved in the conversation. Sorry. Hope that ain't rub nobody the wrong way. It is what it is. But I hope Tank returns, in rare form. Hope he returns in rare form. But yeah, man, I'm gonna open up. Let me see, make sure I didn't. Oh, yeah, we got 2 Japanese fighters who passed away. Really sad, man. Boxing is such a dangerous sport, man. I mean, we don't play boxing is an understated statement. I think it's taken so lightly how dangerous this sport really is in real time, man. And a sport like this, testing should be so strict. Consequences for failed testing should be statement-making consequences. It should be precedent-making consequences. The responsibility of the sanctioning bodies and the athletic commissions involved in these fights to make performance enhancement drugs and cheating a horrible option for any fighter to take. To discourage fighters to do this is an understatement, because that discourage sounds like, please don't do it. I'm talking about, you got to make a fighter not see any best. They need to see their career coming to an end in front of their eyes if they're entertaining playing with that, because the consequences on the back end of this are so irreversible at times. Irreversible. Can't bring back those guys. Those guys are gone. And I'm not saying it's performance enhancement drugs. I don't know what it is, right? But just to let you know how dangerous the game is and how life is so precious and getting punched in the head is so unnatural already, to allow it to be compounded by the influence of performance enhancement drugs. This game needs to be legitimately policed in a way that protects these fighters way better. We can't sit there and take it lightly, man. We can't take it lightly, man. We can't. You know what I mean? Hold on a second. Let me try to pull up the article on this. I want to give these guys their flowers. Hold on a second here. Brain injuries, man. Oh no, that's a YouTube thing there. I don't even. Yeah, it made it NBC News right here. Let me see here. Let's see here. Share. I'm trying to find an article here. Cancel. Let's do it one more time because that was weird. It kind of messed up. I don't know why. Yeah, here's an article here, NBC News. 2 Japanese boxers have died days after suffering brain injuries in separate fights on the same card. Boxing associations and media reporter says Shigetoshi Katari died on Friday and Hiromusa Urakawa on Saturday after being injured in their fights at the Korakuen Hall in Tokyo on August 2nd. Japanese said both 28-year-old boxers underwent operations for subdermal hematomas or bleeding inside the skull. The report said, "We extend our deepest condolences, et cetera, et cetera." Katori died as a result of an injury he sustained while fighting Yamato Hata to a draw in 12 rounds, the World Boxing Council said Friday. And Mauricio Suleiman deeply mourns the irreparable loss and wishes his family and friends strength during a difficult time. Yeah, that's all they're going to do, right? During that time period, all they can do is offer condolences. But boxing is a dangerous sport, man. So when you look at these fighters moving strategically, when you're looking at a Jaron Ennis move strategically, it's not because he's trying to avoid that, obviously. It's that he's trying to capitalize off of every bit of influence and leverage he can capitalize off of to make his career as successful as possible. And success being, there's 2 different successes, right? You have the legacy and the accomplishment success, but you also have the business side and aspect of the game that us as fans don't have to be concerned with, but I would think that we can respect it and say, all right, let's see what this man's going to do with his career, because at the end of the day, he wants to make the most out of his career as he can. So watching these fighters move that way, it's because you don't play boxing. You're afforded an opportunity to take advantage of your physical abilities for a certain, chapter in your life where you're optimal as far as a physical athlete is concerned. You want to capitalize and move the correct way. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm actually going to put you guys on hold for a second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go run for a gentleman's break. And when I get back, I'm actually going to put the link out right now. So, guys, if you want to come up on the panel, let's go ahead and have a great discussion on boxing today. I look forward to the panels on this channel. I happen to think that this panel is one of the best panels in the boxing space. So I appreciate everybody who steps up. There's the link. I'll be back in a second. Hold it down.
Would make it this far, they hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball, I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic gotta say, I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back, you ain't fitted for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this, go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand. Ay, we on overtime, you don't need to me how you plan to win if you plan to play the same.
Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing. Keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get bigger, cause it can get bigger, cause it can get bigger.
Ay, please don't play no games with me, I promise I'm too much. Ay, I can never let up even if you had enough. Ay, this ain't for the faint of heart, we always playing rough. I had enough, it ain't luck. I needed a vision, I needed ambition, I needed a mission to beat in submission with no intermission. I see the collision, the crash in the distance, they coming off track. No.
Yeah, we back at it. Appreciate your patience. Guys, let's make sure we're hitting that like button as we're in the building. Please, feel free to support the channel. Put some color in the chat if that's what you see fit to do. And make sure we hit those likes, man. We've got a lot of people in the building there. I see the likes is looking mad ashy. Let's get those likes up. A lot of views, not enough likes. Let's get the likes up. Come on, let's get it up. If you ain't done it, why haven't you done it? You know what I mean? It is what it is. Let me saw. Yeah, no, not a dinosaur. Not a dinosaur one, nope. Let me bring up the people I see here in the background here. Shout out to my guy Shelton Moore in the building. Shelton, what's good with you, family?
Young man, what's happening with you, brother?
I'm doing good, man. No complaints, won't complain, man. Just watching this boxing.
Hey, because you know what they told me, right? They said you could complain, but don't nobody give a shit anyway. So what's the point?
I'm trying to tell you. That's what I keep hearing. I'm sick of that getting thrown in my face. So I'm in Rome. I'm doing like the Romans. Everything is good.
There you go. That far. So what's the topic, man? We talking about the boy beating the case?
And we can talk about it all, man. Whatever anybody wants to talk about. Let me bring in a couple other people I see in the background as well, man.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to my guy, Frequent Flyer in the building. My Aki. What's good, family?
Salute, Clay. Salamu alaikum.
Yeah, wa alaikum salam, man.
Yo,
good to see you. Good.
Salute, Frequent. What's up, my boy? Yeah, man. The boy beat the case.
We got more people to bring up. Hold on.
Okay, bring him on. My bad.
We got my man Anton Ziegler. I hit him with the salam.
Anton Ziegler, my guy.
Good, Anton. Anton,
Clay,
you there?
Did you go on yesterday, Clay?
His connection must have went bad. No, I didn't, man. I ended up having a last minute situation come together.
He was busy.
Yeah,
man. I'm glad the boy. You don't want to see nobody go to jail, man, especially for something trivial. And I kind of figured it would be that way because he only had a $10,000 bail, and Baltimore didn't put a hold on him. So
right.
I figured he was going to be good. I'm glad he's good, though. I'm really glad he's good. Now I just need him to get in the ring and fight somebody of note. Either fight Roach, fight Shakur, fight somebody of note. And don't say you need a tune-up because you just fought last March. So we don't want to hear none of that tune-up stuff. I need to get back right and all that. Get in the gym, train for 6 to 8 weeks, and give us a fight. That's what I want you to do.
No doubt. Shout out to Coach Eddie in the building as well, man.
Sir, what's going on, brother?
What's up, Coach?
Good, man.
Cool.
What's good, man? What's good?
We're doing great, man. Talking about this boxing. Freaking, how you feel about the Tank situation?
Oh, man, I'm happy Tank ain't get locked up, I'm happy he out here. We can see this Lamont Roach rematch and all of that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I ain't got no problem with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think there's a problem to have with it. You know what I mean? That'd be crazy for us to have a problem with it. But I think the most important thing, and I think it seems like it's consistent so far. We'll see what everybody else thinks. Is I'm just interested in how that translates into matches being made now, fights being made, activity. Those things of that nature. I want to see him.
It takes away the excuse train, Clay. You can't make no excuses now. You can't make no excuses.
No more hands being tied. No more weird things floating over. Let's get back to where we left from, which was, what's the next fight going to be? You know what I mean? Activity. I'm interested in that part of the game. Shout out to Pop Shop Talk 73 in the building. How you doing, Pop?
What's good, my brothers and brothers on the panel?
Doing great, man. Just watching boxing.
What's happening, sir?
Yeah, man. I think this is gonna reinvigorate him, man. It's probably what we've been seeing over the past few months. It's probably what was lingering over him, and so I think that we may get a different Tank, man. He may be coming back with a fire up on him. Got that weight lift off.
Yeah. Well, it looks like he was in the midst of kind of reconstructing and building back the team the way it was. We saw him, going back towards like working with Calvin and Kenny, and it seemed like he was kind of like shaking bringing back some of the old pieces that I felt might have been real integral pieces in who he was as a fighter. So I was optimistic. What I didn't like, I'm not going to lie, from Tank, is that he didn't sign that contract. And, people, we speak on that domestic violence charge that he had that happened, basically was a June 15th incident that he didn't even get a consequence for until July 11th. This fight was supposed to be an August 16th fight, right? People were anticipating announcement on July 19th, which was going to be on the fight card of with Sebastian Fundora and Mario Barrios and Manny Pacquiao, which to me was already concerning, because if this fight was going to happen in August, why are we announcing this fight less than a month before the fight comes out? That didn't seem organic, right? It seemed weird. I don't know how people didn't raise their eyebrow to that. And then when you have Lamont Roach communicating that, I've signed the contract, this guy hasn't signed his half of the contract, to me, it showed hesitation into making the fight anyway, well before there was a domestic violence issue. And it also added to the mystery, or it added to the whole idea that Tank is just disenchanted with the sport and just not interested in boxing the way I think as boxing fans.
Let me stop you there, bro. Let me stop you right there. You got to remember, this domestic violence issue happened on Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't arrest him until July.
Well, that's why I said June 15th was the actual incident day. Yeah. In July 11th
Father's Day. Yep.
Father's Day.
Father's Day, whatever day that was. Yeah. But the thing is, now you're still right though. Even announcing the fight in June, that's going to happen in August. To me, that's still not enough time. I get you.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying there's a breadcrumb there where there's smoke, there's fire. As far as is Tank Davis into boxing, what I mean? I'm just being honest, just to say, like, how interested is he in boxing? What is he willing to do for his fans, for the boxing space? What is he willing to do to make fights happen? And it seemed like he's been being resistant to the idea of fighting.
You saying?
You know what? Because of the hesitation. I want to speak to something real quick.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Coach.
Okay, my bad. I didn't mean to cut the brother off. I want to talk about the trainer and boxing dynamic, because I'm dealing with this right now. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you what's happening with Tank. This is my theory. When you've been with a trainer so long, that fighter will start to resent the trainer because the trainer's making him do something that he doesn't want to do, which is run, spar, hit the heavy bag, do all the work that involves a boxing match. The fighter will get an attitude with the trainer. Come, I got a fighter that's doing it right now. He's being resistant right now because I'm trying to push him, because I know we'll be trying to go, and he's being resistant because it's hard. It's hard to go out there and run. It's hard to spar. It's hard to do everything that it takes to do this. So that's why that you seen the change right there. Another thing too, when you had a fighter in the amateur, this is what happens. A lot of times it's financial, and I'm not saying, I know that Calvin kind of put something out there and people kind of took it and ran with it. But if you notice, once these guys get to a certain level, they usually split with their trainer, because first of all, the trainer is traditionally supposed to get 10% of your purse. A lot of these guys are not paying their trainers. You're not paying your trainer in early fights. You ain't making no money. So he's just letting you slide. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, he ain't going to take, 10% of a $10,000 purse. He's going to let you have all that. Then when you start making the money, then these guys, they want to give the trainer what they want to give them. Oh, I give you this, I give you that. It ain't nothing set in stone. It ain't nothing contractually set, like with Errol Spence and Derrick James, basically freaking handshake deal. So they leave that trainer and then they go get with another trainer, and they'll pay that person the 10% that they want.
Right.
But the guy that's been with you the whole time, your day one, You want to nickel and dime him, or just give him what you think you want to give him. And I'm not saying that's what happened with Tank, but that's what happened with a lot, because that's why Danny Jacobs and Andre Rozier split, because Andre Rozier said, "Look, you're making millions of dollars now. I want my 10%," and Danny Jacobs didn't want to give it to him. Because he's like, I'm the one doing all the work. I'm the one taking all the punches. I'm the one doing all this stuff. That's how fighters think. They think they're doing all the work. They're not looking at the sacrifices that the coaches made from his family, missing birthdays, missing everything, training you for free for years. Didn't get paid nothing. Like Clarissa Shields, a prime example. She got, soon as she got to a certain level, she got with a celebrity trainer. But what about the guy that started you from day one? Did you break him off? No. So that's what happens in boxing, man. That's why Calvin was like, "Look, I'm getting old. These fighters don't appreciate what I'm doing for, what I'm giving you, because that's where it comes from. It's a resentment, and I feel it because I've done this plenty of times. I pour into these kids. I give them the best of the best. You get up to a certain level, and then they skate out on you, and then they want to show back up, and then they don't want to pay their gym dues. Oh, coach, I ain't got it. Yeah, but then they come in with a new pair of shoes every day. I mean, come on, let's make it make sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think you hit on some real clean points, man. Great observation, because what I'm seeing, and I don't know if you guys are seeing the same thing, is Calvin will come out and say something, speak from his heart, but then he's having to come back and retract some things, right? Because obviously he's probably getting pushback for him expressing how he genuinely is feeling. Gervonta Tank Davis was his prize pupil, his most successful fighter that ever came out of his stable. And you get to a point to where you get a fighter where they need to be. I don't think there's other fighters necessarily in his stable that have matched anywhere near that type of success that Tank is. So I find it hard to believe that he's having issues with that, with fighters who amateurs or who not even recognized as the top level contenders in the current boxing space. It has to be Tank. And when he's speaking on that, he's not speaking on something that's only with Tank. He's speaking on something that we've heard happen, just like you've made the example of, Coach Eddie, multiple times with multiple different fighters and trainers in their relationships, from as early as lately as Derek James and Errol Spence to what you quoted as far as Danny Jacobs and Rozier was concerned. We watched fighters.
Triple G did the same thing with Abel Sanchez. He started making money. He wanted to skate out. Didn't want to pay the 10%.
Right. So when we watch that happen, that dynamic changes in between the fighter and the trainer, right? Because the fighter and the trainer arguably have a father-son relationship almost, right? There's almost like that understanding, the authority, the influence that the trainer runs the show, right? That the fighter agrees to buy into the process that the trainer has put there for him. Not new process, but a process has been there since the beginning, clearly, and arguably got you to where you're at. But here we are finally reaping the fruits, right, of our labor, and now you want to change things in the ninth inning, and it becomes a little bit of conflict of interest. It becomes a little bit more rebellious from the fighter side. The trainer is starting to get a little more disrespected, a little bit more pushed to the side, a little bit more dismissed as far as what he's there to do. And I think it does function as a big roadblock for a lot of these guys to move forward, and we watch it end up in ugly situations. This one being the one on the forefront right now, which is that dynamic between Gervonta and Calvin and Kenny. And you see Calvin trying to make lemonade, right? He's trying to speak life into the situation. He doesn't want to disrespect his fighter that he looks at as a son, that he's invested not only time but emotions into, right? He's invested love and emotions and aspirations. You hear Calvin talking about his own son that passed away, and how Tank was given to him by his son, where his son told him before he passed away, you need to do something with this kid. So this is deep for Calvin, right? But ultimately, I think what Calvin said that was real interesting in that interview, where he was retracting and putting context to what was misunderstood, as he would have it put out there. I think one of the big things that he said was that Tank has a decision to make, and he wants to give him space to make that decision as a man. When he said that, to me, he was speaking towards the big elephant in the room, which is, when will Tank make a decision as to what he wants to do with the rest of his boxing career? I'll land my plane there and allow somebody else to come in and tap into that.
I wanted to speak to Tank's hesitation to signing the rematch and everything. I like to stay optimistic, man, about it. So I like to think that Tank was just being transparent with the PBC, you know, as far as his case and all of that. And so I think that the PBC, knowing that he had this, you know, issue, you know, with the law and whatnot, I think they didn't, you know, they wasn't trying to get him to sign it at that moment. They wanted to hold off and see what was going to happen with the case, you know, because if he would have signed and then they would have, you know, announced the fight and all of that stuff, and then this happened, you know, with the case becoming public and everything, and then he just happened to get locked up, you know, they would have a lot of retracting to do, you know, with people buying tickets and stuff like that. You know, I just think that they were just being cautious as far as, you know, Tank's case and everything. So I think that's why they held off. I don't think that he was, you know, contemplating retiring at that moment. In other words, I don't think that was a factor in him signing the rematch for the Roach fight. Like, I don't think he was just trying to get out of it or anything like that.
I think the timeline pushes back at the, you know, and I'm be real, it's like the accountability has to be there, and I think addressing the elephant in the room is important in this conversation. You know, Lamont Roach and Tank Davis fought back in March. Pretty much inside of 2 weeks after that fight, this fight was announced as a rematch that we were going to be looking forward to seeing happening. The rumors had circulated about Jake Paul, Esau Cruz, all the different things that could possibly be on the table. But I think it was inside of 2 weeks that the boxing space was put on notice that this rematch was going to happen. And also the boxing space, as far as the fans and everything, demanded this fight. They wanted to see this fight. They needed to see this get settled, because this draw wasn't going to be respected, especially on the back end of all the controversy behind the knee and the grease in the eye and all that stuff that happened. This rematch was going to be happening. So you can just say by April, this fight was announced as a legitimate, and I'm telling you it was before April, because this fight was March 1st. So this fight, I would say by the mid-March, we understood that this was a fight that was going to be announced. The only thing was when. By April, for sure, this fight was supposed to be solid. By April, Lamont Roach was speaking on platforms. He was on a social media tour and campaign, and he was already letting it be known that this was already contracted as far as his side of the conversation was concerned, as far as his signature, as far as his agreement. He was already done. They were waiting on Tank Davis at that point to sign the contract in order for the PBC to formally announce this in the way that they normally do with their other events. So April, May, this particular incident happened June 15th, 2.5 months after this fight was not announced, but the space was put on notice. Why wasn't this signed? Why didn't the PBC push this forward? Why wasn't this signed in that 2.5 month time period? Forget the announcement. Why wasn't the contract signed? Why was Lamont Roach not confident in this fight happening? Why did Senior go in an interview in the past 3 weeks and say he was already thinking this fight was going to be issues in it coming together anyway, outside of the incident that happened between him and his baby mother on June 15th? So I don't think so. I don't think the PBC hesitated on signing this because of the incident, because this was supposed to be signed 2.5 months before the incident happened. This was Tank Davis taking his sweet time, not signing a contract for his own personal reasons. And this incident that happened, I don't want to say it conveniently happened, but I think it served as a way. It served its purpose as far as, I don't want to say it served its purpose. That's the wrong thing to say. But I'm thinking it conveniently happened in a way to where now we don't have to look at the 2.5 months before this fight, before that incident happened, and ask what the hell happened. And is Tank dialed in? Is Tank trying to box anymore?
Clay, let me ask you a question. Are you trying to say, because I'm hearing where you're going with this, because I kind of feel the same way. Do you think Tank even really wants to fight this guy again?
I don't think Tank wants to box anymore.
Hey Clay, I know people don't like to hear this take right here, but we all saw what we saw immediately after the Tank Roach fight, the first fight. It's that infamous time, and right after the fight, the post-fight interview when they asked him about the rematch, and he said he thought that it wasn't going to happen now, and that he was going to fight somebody else, and we suspect that it was Jake Paul. I know people get mad when we say that, but I really think that Jake Paul thing was, it at least was an idea from them, and I think they were probably going to do that. And then, it was so much pushback. They didn't expect Lamont Roach to do as well as he did, and they didn't expect that controversy. And so then they had to have a change of plans, man. So that, I think that's what that came from. They probably had to get that out of the way, backtracking from the fight that they was gonna already had planned.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think the person who really knows what happened in that ring is Tank Davis, and it doesn't seem like he has a desire to want to get that back. I think in Tank's mind, I think he gave that man all that he could have gave, and it wasn't enough, and he knows that deep down inside. And I don't think he wants to do it anymore. And he knows that his fan base is going to run cover for him and give him all the excuses. So in their eyes, he won anyway. So why should I jump back in there and jeopardize it again? The fighter knows, and I think deep down in Tank's heart, he knows that he didn't win that fight. I've been involved in close fights, and I'm sitting there saying, dang, I got the nod. I won, but I didn't beat him. Kind of like that Apollo Creed moment when he fought Rocky. I won the fight, but I didn't beat the man. And Tank know that he didn't do enough to beat him. He probably felt like he lost that fight, but he got a gift. And he probably don't like to say you don't want to do it again. I think Roach is gonna put something on him if they fight again, to be honest, man.
Yeah,
making him wait. I think he's gonna punish him.
I'll say this, and I'll say that Tank is interested in something. He's interested in something, right? Because he's still training. You still see him training with you'll see videos that'll let you believe that he's still dialed in to boxing to a certain
degree. But it ain't Lamont Roach. That's what you're saying. He's interested in something.
Lamont Roach.
But it ain't
Lamont Roach. I don't know
Roach.
what it is, but it ain't Roach. Yeah, it ain't that fight. It is not that fight, man. He's not interested in that fight. That's why I'll land my plane there, because I stated that he's not interested in boxing anymore. I don't know that to be true, because you still see him training. You still see him. You still see the things that'll make you believe he's interested in boxing. But I think without a doubt, he's shown very, very little, if it's even measurable, nanograms of interest in fighting this fight with Lamont Roach. It is what it is when it comes to that conversation. I mean, outside of that, I don't know. And I saw somebody in here say Tank doesn't say anything. I hear it goes, aircraft carrier says, last time we heard Tank talk was after the Roach fight. Since then, it's been a million speculations. Yeah, and I agree with you, the aircraft carrier. I've been one of those guys who's been a big proponent for pushing that. Tank don't say nothing, so why are we sitting here? But at the end of the day, sometimes a lack of saying stuff shows a lack of interest. And we can acknowledge the fact that this fight in real time, this fight was a fight that clearly the space wanted, the PBC wanted to push forward. Lamont Roach and his team were led down the path of believing that this was going to be the next fight. Everybody here thought that fight was going to happen, not because we were just assuming. There was information being put out about that. The undercard was damn near announced. With Gary Antoine was supposed to be on it. All types of fighters. Stephen Fulton was supposed to be fighting O'Shaquie. All types of things were announced on the undercard of this fight, and it didn't come together. We see this domestic violence thing come up, which I tell you is convenient, in my opinion, that it came up, because I really think it overshadows the actual topic at hand, which is Tank interested in making this fight happen or not? I think that's the real topic. I don't think it's about his domestic violence. I don't think, I think the PBC got a blessing out of this to get that heat taken off of them and not have to answer these hard questions and be like, oh man, what, you got fans who will sit there and just put it in there and turn it into, I've heard it. You know what I mean? Well, clearly they knew that. That's brother. No, I'm not subscribing to that. It is what it is. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Patience is a virtue. I'm a truck driver. One thing we learn in trucking is sometimes you got to learn to hurry up and wait. right? And I'll wait because I have no choice, and I got a lot of other boxing going on to where I don't need to focus on my damn energy on Tank Davis.
You learned that in the military as well, Clay. You know that. It's the first thing you learned in the military. Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait, bro. You'll be shocked at how patient I could be, bro. I'm super patient. I'm not tripping as bad as it may seem like I am. I'm just speaking to the elephant in the room, whatever it's worth. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Everybody can have their own opinion on it. I do want to continue to move the needle, though, and move this conversation.
We're going to talk about the Itama fight, the fight this week?
Oh, we can do that if that's what you guys want to do. We can talk about Jaron Ennis as well, as far as this fight he got coming up.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, Cap. Let's talk about that.
To speak about Jaron.
Yeah, man. Listen, man. Philly's on the map, man. Jaron Ennis, up and coming, one of the biggest stars in the game right now. And I'll give the little prequel just to say that he is, in my opinion, in the conversation for what's the word I'm looking for candidate for the face of American boxing. His next moves make a big difference. I think there's understanding there from all parties involved in the Jaron Boots Ennis business, which is what it is now. He has a brand, and people are up in the air right now because we fought forever to see him make this move to 154, wanted to see him leave 147, but then opportunities came about for him there. But now he's at 154, but now he's taking his time, and it seems like the boxing space doesn't want him to take his time. They feel like F the time. We want to see you in these fights now. The boxing fans are going crazy as they're salivating at the idea of this man fighting the most dangerous and the biggest fights at 154, and he's choosing to idle a little bit and slow it down. He's cruising at 30 miles an hour right now and taking his time and enjoying the scenery and enjoying the activities that this new neighborhood has to offer him, and the boxing space is not embracing it at all, man. Where you guys stand on it?
Yeah, can I go first? Because I gotta go back to work.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just I think that we got people cooking boots for this fight and everything. You got people expressing their disapproval of who he's fighting because he's not fighting a champion, moving up, but I think I know people overlook it and everything, and not too many people like Devin, but I think Devin set the bar real high, man. When you really look at it, every time Devin moved up, he fought a champion. When he moved up from 135, he went to 140 and he fought Regis Prograis. Then now he moving up from 140 to 147. He's fighting another champion. It ain't too many people I saw do that. We saw Bud do that when he fought Horn. When he fought Horn when he moved up. But we ain't see Tank do that when he moved up. We ain't see Virgil Ortiz win a. I don't think he even won a title before.
He ain't got no title.
We ain't really see nobody do that when they move up, So what Boots is doing is normal. That's what everybody else is doing. Devin and Terrence, the only people that I see really went up and fought a champion right off the bat. Maybe Canelo might have, did it a couple times, but I think it's normal.
And that's what I was gonna say. Doesn't this career start to look eerily similar? Isn't it starting to look similar?
To who?
To Terrence Crawford.
Oh, Terrence.
To Terrence Crawford. It's starting to look similar, ain't it? He ain't fighting nobody. We never heard of this dude. Blah, 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 blah.
Well, Bud moved up and fought a champion, though.
But I'm about to say if that's
but they said the same thing. They said Bud ain't fought nobody. We never heard of this dude. Postal was nobody, and Dagu was nobody. These dudes is nobody. They said the same thing about Boots. It's starting to look similar.
Dongo was trash though, brother. Dongo was trash. I don't care what nobody say. He was let me tell you something, Coach.
Now, you the coach, and I respect you as a coach. But you can't tell me a man is trash when he went to Russia and got one belt, then went to England and got the other. He went to two people's hometowns, took their belts. The man wasn't trash.
Yeah, I don't think he was trash. I think it's so unfair when they say that about Ngannou. And you know what I mean? I think it's messed up because he walks into the ring with the accolades that he's earned. I think he was an undefeated fighter up until that point, if I'm correct, right? I think he was. And now Bud beats him, and now he was trash. Like 22-0 going into that fight. I'm looking at it right here. What do you want that?
Well, maybe trash is a hard word, but I'm just saying his skills in my opinion, wasn't really up to par. You can be a champion and still not have skills.
But how do you get the belt? You beat the guy who got the belt, right? You beat the guy who got the belt, right?
Hold on, wait 1 second. I'm gonna explain it to you. A lot of times these guys that they can win these belt from, they're like, I consider a champion or somebody who's a reigning champion. That's what I consider a champion. You can be a champ. Like take Charles Martin for instance. He was a champion, and you see what happened to him. He was quickly gone. So yeah, you can be a champion and have one defense and lose it. So that's just my opinion. I would look at a champion as somebody who had multiple title defenses.
That's what a champion means to me. But what I'm saying is, when Earl went to England and took somebody's belt, they made a big deal out of it. This dude came from Ghana, went to Russia, took one belt, then right after that went to England and took another belt, and now he's trash.
Hey,
it doesn't.
I ain't gonna argue with you about the opinion. I don't think he had good. I don't think his skills were good. You know, that's just my opinion, man. You know what I mean? You have good opinion. I don't think he had good skills, man.
You can say his skills wasn't as good as you would like to see, but don't say the man is trash because he took 2 world titles from 2 world champions. He's not trash.
And I agree. And from Shelton's point of view, here's where I'm at with it, right? Just to add to what Shelton's point of view is, it takes away from the accomplishment. It makes it to where this man can't get any recognition. You know what I'm saying? And I think it adds to the propaganda getting pushed behind to where we see Terrence at today. The fact that this man fought the fights in front of him, he didn't cherry pick, he didn't just strategically move around and do what a lot of other fighters did, but he won't get no recognition because there's a hole here, there's an asterisk here, there's something here, there's something there. The fighter can't get the accolades without us celebrating the fighter he's getting the accolades for what they've actually accomplished. Skill wise, maybe he wasn't the best pedigree of fighter that Terrence ever fought, but as far as the mission that Terrence was on and what that guy brought to the conversation as far as accolades was concerned, he checked the boxes. He was undefeated, he was a champion, and he was a fighter that Terrence Crawford had to get through in order to get to becoming an undisputed champion in that weight division. So, I mean, you know, it just is what it is. The boxing space, I think, could benefit from us acknowledging these fighters for what they bring to the table in real time so that these fighters can be celebrated in the right way. Because here we see Terrence Crawford going to fight Canelo Alvarez, and the space is doing everything in their power to discredit this man. And what do they bring up? His resume. They bring up these fights and they turn it into he's not an accomplished fighter, where meanwhile their fighter hasn't accomplished a fraction of what this man has accomplished to be in the conversations that they're in. Shout out to Ill Will in the building, says, why would Boots sit out and wait just to fight for a belt? I'd rather him stay busy in an eliminator. It's a stupid argument. Yeah, I mean, let's bring it full circle back to what we're talking about here, which is Jaron Boots Ennis and the way he's deciding to move.
Oh yeah, I did want to say that too. I watched 2 videos of this Lima kid. Hey, he's gonna pressure Boots. He only fights one way. He's coming at you. This might be a good fight for Boots, a good test.
I watched it too, and what I see is stylistically, they're giving Boots an opportunity to give the fan to jolt the fan base up and to see him in exciting fights again and see him stop people. I believe he came off of a fight with Stanionis that was decent as far as excitement was concerned, because Stanionis stood there in front of him, but Stanionis was a little bit more disciplined to a certain degree, but he was still there to get put away. But I think that David Avanesian and Karen fight, the stain of that fight hasn't gone completely away. And I think matchup wise, Eddie Hearn and them would like to visually, aesthetically give the boxing space a real good perspective on who Boots is, give him a space and an opponent that will allow him to do what he does best and build up Boots in that 154 division so that fight with Virgil Ortiz and all the other fights that'll come after that will be as big as they can be. I think they're trying to build, I think Eddie Hearn is trying to build a star, and not for the people who know Boots already, but for the people who don't know Boots. I think sometimes we put a lot of weight on these fighters not having no names and realizing that even the fighters we recognize at names, the casual space doesn't even know those fighters. You know what I'm saying? It's about the performance. It's about the entertainment.
And this guy reminds me of the guy he fought from Argentina. What was that guy's name? The guy knocked out in the 9th round?
Roman Villa.
He reminds me of Roman Villa with a little bit of pop and a little bit of movement. But he's going to be right there. You're not going to have to look for this kid.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think to say that I'm okay with this fight might have people feeling like, oh, this is a fight you want. Like, shout out to my brother Mill City. We were talking on his platform, and he was just like, he was pushing for Rashidi Ellis, which is his fighter, from his town at least. But which I understood. But at the end of the day, the picture tried to be painted that you want the Lima fight. It's not that I want the Lima fight. It's a fight that we're getting. What I want is to see Boots fight right now. I want him to stay active because I know the kind of fighter he is. He benefits off activity. We've seen Boots get frozen out of boxing, out 147-pound conversations. We've seen how difficult it's been for him to make the fights, which is another point of this conversation that I wouldn't mind talking about as well, which is we put so much weight on his shoulders to make these fights happen. But how much weight and when do we hold accountable the fighters who aren't taking these opportunities to fight Boots, and they are getting career high paydays, right? Maybe a Josh Kelly can speak towards getting a payday that he got in the UK, because those UK fighters, we don't talk about that enough as well. They get a lot of money for their fights. But when you look at a Rashidi Ellis, or you look at a Jesus Ramos, or you look at a lot of these fighters who are getting offered $250,000, $300,000, $500,000, and they're turning away these fights, and they want to go from making $150,000, $100,000 in a fight to making $750,000 to fight Gervonta Davis. I think we could spread the blame a little bit more evenly than what we're spreading.
Hey Clay, I want to touch on piggyback off that too. Not only these newer guys, but these older guys too. They picked up this language that they learned from this particular fighter who shall remain nameless. Said, "Oh, you don't bring nothing to the table." That's what an older fighter says to a young guy. Back in the day, the older fighter, they fought the young guy. They either looked at him as a whippersnapper and said, "I'm about to teach this young pup a lesson," or "I'm going to pass the torch." It was one of the two. And even some of my favorite fighters that use that same language. He don't bring nothing to the table. I got everything to lose and nothing to gain, so that's why I ain't gonna fight the man. What are we doing? Are we boxing or what? I mean, I understand being strategic and trying to maximize your money, but at the same time, this is traditionally how things were not done. I mean, Muhammad Ali could have said the same thing about Spinks. Oh, he only has 7 fights. He don't bring nothing to the table. I ain't fighting him. What did Ali did? He fought him. When I picture a champion, I picture a guy who's taking on all comers, young, old, blind, crippled, crazy. I'm taking on all comers because I'm a fighting champion. And that's the difference between a lot of these guys. First of all, they're not long reigning. They get a belt. They may defend it once, and they go to the next weight class. They don't hold on to these belts. Bernard Hopkins was a long reigning champion. Marvin Hagler was a long reigning champion. Those are champions. I consider other guys belt holders.
But these young guys see what happened to the guy that fought everybody, and a lot of these young guys don't want to end up like that.
Yeah,
you know what? I understand it, but you can also choose not to box at all. You can always say, you know what? I want to be an accountant. That's what I'm saying. I want to be an accountant. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. This is the game. This is what you signed up for.
I want him to fight the fights I want him to fight too, Coach Eddie. I do. But I also understand. I don't like it, but I understand why these guys sometimes pick and choose, because they don't want to end up like that. They don't want to end up like Terry Norris. They don't want to end up like James Toney. They don't want to end up like Shane Mosley. They don't want to end up like that. And they seeing it over and over again. Like, oh, man, these dudes fought all them fights. And Greg, look at him. Look how he talk. Look how he walk. I don't want that. That's what they're looking at. I'm just telling you what they're looking at. I don't like it, just like you don't.
I agree with that point.
Yeah, I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, man, I think that this space is become very entitled, and you got a lot of managers who want fighters to move the way they want to move. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, to be honest with you, but I also don't think there's anything wrong with boxers like Gervonta Ennis taking their career very seriously and getting on a game plan, on a strategy, you know what I mean, on a blueprint, something that they have in front of them that they plan on sticking to in order to get them where they want to be. But also, like I said earlier, acknowledging that these other fighters that the offers were sent to, that Lima was not the first offer that was sent out there. And the question is, how reasonable is $250,000 to these fighters? How reasonable is $500,000 to these fighters? Why are fighters who somebody like Rashidi Ellis, for example, who's a fighter who fought on, what is it, TLC or TCL, whatever the name of that network is, who's not been relevant in the sport the way he was before he fought Roma Villa, somebody who could use an opportunity. Why are you pricing yourself out of a fight like this? You know what I'm saying?
Because he's listening to the content creators. Because he's listening. That's like we listen. He's listening. He hears his name. He believes that he's worth more than he's actually worth.
Right.
Because he hears other people say that, and it makes him believe that. But you see, Lima lives in Portugal. Lima knows that $250,000 goes a long way in Portugal.
Yeah,
I'm taking that.
And also, the fight itself is a valuable fight. It's a fight. It's a name on the resume. It's a headline on a card. You know what I'm saying? Come on, bro. Like the opportunity, even if you're just a legacy fighter, why would you miss out on the opportunity to get in the ring with Jaron Ennis and allow yourself to be priced out? And you know, we're watching
and be seen and actually be seen. I got you. Actually be seen. Yeah.
You know,
and even if you do lose, you put a good showing on.
Yeah, you make $250,000 is one thing as far as the money being good money, but also what about your career afterwards? How it'll benefit afterwards? Why does this fight have to be the end all be all? Why does the money you make from this fight supposed to facilitate you walking away from this sport if you feel like it? You know what I'm saying? Like you finally.
I think I might have an answer, Coach Eddie. How old is Rashidi? How old is Rashidi?
He's under 30. He's in his 20s, I think.
Yeah, he's right there next to Boots. They're like in the same class, but I'll pull it up real quick.
They're the same age bracket. Because I'm thinking maybe Rashidi's like, I'm thinking like Rashidi's maybe like 32, 33, and he's like, ooh, maybe I can get a good money because
he's 32.
He's 32, yeah. Right, because Rashidi been around for a minute. Rashidi been around for a minute.
I'm gonna tell you why he should have took it, because even if he does lose, if it's a good competitive fight, all it's gonna do is lead to other paydays, man. That's it.
Now look,
like Tevin Farmer. Just like Tevin Farmer.
Yeah, Tevin, exactly, right? Well, Rashidi Ellis did end up saying he would take the deal. Like this is after that video that shout out my brother Mill City did an interview with Rashidi Ellis and his manager. I think his name is Alex something, or I can't remember what his name is, but the Spanish Latino who spoke and said that they made a counter offer and that they wanted to get $800,000, right? More than $750,000 to fight this fight, right? I think Rashidi Ellis' fight before that, he made somewhere in the range of like $100,000 or something, right? But people will say don't count their pockets, but brother, it is what it is. If you made, let's say you made $150,000 in the last fight, which I don't think he made. Here you are given an opportunity. They offer you $250,000. You ask for $800,000. They offer you. They meet you in the middle and says we'll do $500,000. You act like you got to think about it. So now they walk away. We know that Eddie Hearn is a shrewd businessman when it comes to negotiations. Some people might even consider him grimy. We know what he can do and what he's capable of. You're going to allow that man to walk away when you know that there's multiple offers being put out there. We all knew it as content creators in the boxing space that he had offers out there to Jesus Ramos, that he had offers out there to Josh Kelly, that there was conversations of Charles Conwell being part of the conversation. You weren't the only play in the neighborhood. There was plenty of offers being put out there, and obviously an offer being put out to Lima. So you allowed this to get ripped off the table from you, and now you want the pressure to be applied back to Jaron Boots. And it's like, no, man, take it. It's the best fight. He changed his mind. Nah, brother. That's not the way this works from Eddie Hearn's point of view, because at the end of the day, no matter who Jaron Boots Ennis decides to fight, it's not going to be Virgil. And the boxing space is not going to be happy with it. You feel me? It's not going to be Bachram. It's not going to be Jamel Charlo. It's not going to be Sebastian Fundora. It's not going to be these fights that the boxing space wants to see. He's not going to get all these props for pulling up. And I'm giving it to you straight up the way the boxing space is going to look at it. They're going to say he pulled this guy up from 147. Rashidi Ellis has never competed at 154. They're going to say you pulled him up and that you were supposed to beat him. And God forbid that fight is more competitive than what people think it's going to be. He's going to go right back to catching hell like he did for competing with David Avanesian and Karen. So what is the win on the side of fighting you? A fighter who's sitting here trying to extort at this point large amounts of money that nobody else is offering you. You're not even on a major platform.
That's the point right there, Clay. Who else is gonna offer him $500,000? Ain't nobody giving Rashidi $500,000.
They're not going to either. He's going back to fighting. You know what I mean? It's sad, and I got respect for Rashidi. I think he's a
going
great
back
fighter.
to camp. That's what he's doing. $1,000 a week being a sparring partner is what he's about to go back to. Getting lumped up for $1,000 a week.
Yeah, and he's gonna get, he's gonna get fights that his promoter's able to put events around, because that's what he's been doing, is like these, club level events. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna look good for him. The decisions didn't look good, and I know people want to flip it and turn it into a whole bunch of stuff, but that's what it comes down to. That's the business of boxing, and that's the price you pay when you're pricing yourself out of situations. Shout out to Brian Norman's team. And, on the back end of that, where they at today, man, listen, man, they're doing great. Turkey's jumping behind them. You got a great quality, exciting knockout artist of a fighter in Brian Norman Jr. You're able to move in a certain way, and he's able to capitalize off of that momentum he's built for himself. And so you don't got to look back at the Jaron Boots Ennis negotiations and really throw too much shade at him, because look what they're doing now. But in reality, God forbid they weren't able to get this fight with Devin Haney. How does that negotiation age as far as the decision that was made to walk away from it because you had to be $2 million instead of $1.7 million? These opportunities don't come every day. You got to kind of weigh it out and make the best decision that makes sense for your career. And I think hindsight, they're going to see the decisions made, that the Jesus Ramos, that well, maybe not Jesus Ramos. I don't know, because you're with the PBC. They don't got you active. I don't know. You know what I mean? Rashidi Ellis, all these fighters who walked away. Josh Kelly, I think his decision will age well, because I think he has a fan base in that UK market. It's just a different market. But Rashidi Ellis, Jesus Ramos, I don't know, bro. I think that decision is going to age like milk. I think deciding to become all high almighty and getting these big pay, I'm worth more. This is worth more. I think you're gonna look back at it and regret it if you're not regretting it right now. Let's see here. Brian Dragon Fly Jones says Norman Jr. wanted to get paid, wasn't fear. Now he's getting paid, and Boots ended up offering Norman what he asked for in the beginning. So why play games? Like I said, Brian Norman Jr., it doesn't look bad. It aged well. It worked out. But also, thank God he put that boy Jin Sasaki into the shadow realm. You know what I'm saying? And that helped a whole lot. You know what I mean? Being able to deliver those kind of performances, you can bet on yourself. I think there's nothing wrong with betting on yourself. Terrence Crawford did it. Shakur's doing it right now. A lot of these fighters, in which we'll talk about in this conversation as well, a lot of them are betting on themselves, man. And you got to. You work so hard, bet on yourself. But Rashidi, what kind of performances have you been putting on that people been knocking at? I don't know what's been going on. Have these big platforms been knocking at your door? Is it Golden Boy offering you, a $5 million 5-year deal? You know what I mean? Like Floyd Schofield. Is Top Rank offering you something I'm not aware of? Is the PBC offering you something I'm not aware of? Jesus Ramos, do you have a fight lined up that I'm not aware of that's offering you more than $250,000? Is there, you know what I'm saying? Be honest with yourself. If you are, then okay, you made the right decision. I think Brian Norman Jr. had a legitimate argument to say, listen, Bob Arum was probably letting them know we got plans for you. And you also see Turkey Al-Sheikh bringing in ambassadors from Top Rank, so they might have had that in their crosshairs as well. So whatever your decision is, whatever is fueling your decision, God bless. You know what I'm saying? If it works out, it works out. But once again, now you coming back and saying you want to fight for the offer they were offering you, and you were acting like you weren't willing to take it, I think it speaks to it. I think that's a little bit more telling. I think it speaks to the opportunities out on the table. Clearly, you weren't willing to walk away from that. It is what it is. At the end of the day, see, Stanionis got roughly what Norman was asking for. And that's another thing. Shout out to my brother, Ant McQueen. I don't think that's the point he's trying to hit, what I'm about to say, but people keep bringing that up. Oh, man, you gave it to Stanionis. Why couldn't you give it to Brian Norman? Bro, hindsight is so 2020. Hindsight is so 2020. Listen, man, when you're sitting here, if I go right now and I go to a car dealership, and let's say I'm looking at a Dodge Ram 2500 and I see that they're offering it to me for, let's say, $67,000, right? It's got everything I want in it, but I'm trying to get it for $60,000 and they won't budge. So I walk away. Then you find out I go to another dealership and I end up buying the same Dodge Ram for $70,000 or $68,000, right? You're going to be like, I'm a dumbass. Why didn't I take the other truck for okay, clearly I thought I could get it for 60, moron. But when they're all, came down to it, I really wanted the truck more than I cared about the price. Probably that truck that's for $67,000 ain't for sale no more. Now I went and paid $70,000 somewhere else because I want the truck more than anything, so I spent the money. But it doesn't mean that I was ducking or, you know what I mean, some nonsense that you're coming up in your mind about why I didn't pay the $67,000. Boots thought he could do better. Eddie Hearn thought he could do better than pay that man $1.7 million. They were wrong. They went and fought Karen, and they were wrong. They end up paying Stanionis the money that Brian Norman Jr. was asking for. It doesn't make Brian Norman Jr. an idiot. It doesn't make Jaron Boots an idiot. But we're moving forward in time. You get new information. You get new data. You use that data accordingly to make the next best decision that's going to work out for you according to what you want to get done. I don't know if that puts any kind of context to the decision making that went there. Mine yours says, Clay, you my dude. You giving that man and his team a million excuses, and he's still fighting a weaker competition. I'm not giving him excuses. I'm saying he's making a decision. He's making a business move, and that's what it is. What it is. It's not an excuse. It's just to say that there's a lot more thought put behind these decisions, and I think people want to acknowledge. And if you watch Lima fight stylistically, I'm gonna tell y'all straight up, I think we're gonna get a good fight. And I don't mean good like competitive. I mean good like we're gonna see Jaron shine on somebody who's going to bring it out of him by pushing the pace of the fight. And you're going to see, I think, at the end of the night, just like people were questioning Brian Norman Jr. fighting Jin Sasaki, like who's Jin Sasaki? Well, look at where Brian Norman is at right now based off that knockout he got on Jin Sasaki. And I think Boots has an opportunity to do the same thing. You know?
Yeah, I like Boots he's in a great place, man. You know, he's with a good promoter. One thing I like about Eddie Hearn, he keeps you active. He keeps you busy, man. That's the biggest thing with him. Keep you fighting, keep you busy. I think this is what I believe is going to happen in the future. I think that Eddie is going to introduce Boots to that UK fan market. It's going to turn him into a freaking superstar. I think we're looking at a star right now. Not just a star in the United States, but I see this kid fighting in Wembley one day. Full to capacity. Headlining at Wembley. I mean, that's just what I'm saying. I think Eddie Hearn's the guy to do it.
And everybody's man, bro. Like I see Colorado Spock right here, right? Shout out to my guy JR Spock. Says Boots or Crawford is a business decision. Everyone else is excuses and ducking. First of all, I don't call a bunch of people ducking. I think the only person I ever really call a duck is Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez. I don't really call too many people a duck, number one. But number two, everybody's situation ain't the same. We can't compare every one of these situations to each other like that. Boots is at the beginning of his campaign to be a face of American boxing. He's given an opportunity to do, and he's wielding his leverage accordingly to how he thinks this is going to benefit him the best. It's not guaranteed to benefit him the best, but he's wielding it because he's on the process of building himself up. We have to remember that Jaron Boots Ennis has not headlined a pay-per-view event yet, right? I think it's the same way when we put that pressure on him to fight Terrence Crawford, right? And we turned him into this fighter that's his biggest star than he actually is. We put a lot of pressure on Boots that Boots didn't need, because ever since we put him in the conversation fighting Terrence or Errol Spence, all of a sudden we required so much more of him. Meanwhile, in reality, Boots is somebody who's young in this conversation. He's young in the idea of the star power and the notoriety he's built for himself, and he's trying to capitalize off of it. So yes, I'm going to give more grace to Jaron Boots Ennis for Eddie Hearn and him taking their time to jump into 154 the right way and align. And that's what I think is happening. What's happening is they're calibrating their schedules and their availability with the best fights that are there at 154. So that instead of staying and hanging back and fighting 2-3 months later for Virgil Ortiz, what they're doing is they're staying active and they're staying on schedule with the best fights that are going to come. So that's why I think in 2026, you're going to see Boots involved in some of the best fights. The reality is, though, I don't think the decision he made to fight Lima has thrown off the schedule of any of those other fights happening. Shout out to Aircraft Carrier who put on here, and I'll put it up here. Hold on one second here. He's showing you the schedule, right? He's saying Bakram is fighting Lubin next. Fedora just literally fought. Virgil is fighting Thurman to help the to help Oscar De La Hoya facilitate that PBC versus Golden Boy card. What does he do? There's a story out there that Virgil was ready to fight him right now. Maybe yes, maybe no. I'm not too sure, right? But clearly the schedule that Boots was trying to be on, that didn't line up with what they're trying to do. In reality, in my opinion, Boots is just staying active because he would have probably had to wait, maybe not a significant amount of time, but longer than he wanted to make any of these fights happen that you guys have been asking for. He's just staying active. Ill Will says Stanionis got 1.8 million in Virgil purse plus a ring belt. There it is. There it is. But yeah, I don't give a lot of weight to this fight that Boots is getting ready to fight. Is getting ready to fight with Lima. I'm more so looking forward to see the fight. We've been in these conversations with plenty of your guys' favorite fighters. Nobody flipped out on Gervonta when he fought Hector Garcia. Everybody kind of understood that it was a stay busy fight and took it for that. Nobody threw shots at a lot of fighters, you know what I'm saying, who fought fights. You know what I mean? Nobody threw shots at David Benavidez for fighting Alexander Voznik. You know what I mean? When he came in the light heavyweight division, nobody was like, "Oh, you're supposed to be fighting." You know what I mean? Nobody put that kind of weight. When David was getting ready to fight Jesse Hart, I didn't hear nobody complaining about that much either. You know what I mean? Fighters have to stay active and stay busy. I think if you watch Lima stylistically, this fight is gonna deliver. That's what I believe. It is what it is. Everybody gone. Everybody jumped off. Colorado's JR says Boots going to set back and let 154 champs take each other out. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that might end up happening. I just don't think he's hurt himself at all in the decision that he decided to make. At all. I don't see it. You know what I mean? He says, I thought Boots should wait for Virgil, but he took the Lima fight. Okay. He chooses to stay busy fight. Yeah. I mean, I know people the people would love to manage. People love to manage and put these guys' careers into their hands. I'm telling you, a lot of you guys need to jump into the boxing management business. You know what I'm saying? And apply some of these strategies and see if you can build yourself up a fighter from the ground up the way that Eddie Hearn has done it, or Bob Arum has done it, or Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy has done it, or any of these boxing promoters who make the decisions they make. You know, you could say what you want to say about Gervonta Tank Davis and the way he was moved, but those guys moved him into money. They strategically moved him in a way that made a lot of money. Me, as a boxing fan, I didn't agree with, some of the fights I wanted to see didn't happen. I hated it, but I'll never throw shade on the idea that there was a successful strategy applied to Gervonta Tank Davis and what he brought to the table, and that he was able to capitalize off of it monetarily in a huge way. Why can't Boots jump on that a little bit? Hopefully he doesn't completely sell out and doesn't fight nobody, but I believe these fights are all going to end up happening. You know what I mean? Pop Shop, you there? I heard a lot of noise, Pop Shop. You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm with you, my brother.
No doubt. But how do you feel about this Jaron Boots Ennis situation?
Well, to be honest, man, I think Boots kind of put himself in that spotlight. You know, when he's on these interviews, especially like on YSM, man, he's coming out stating, look, I'm at 154. I'm finally here. I'm ready to take all the smoke. I'm ready to fight the best fighters, you know, word for word, verbatim. Those are things that came out of his mouth. So, you know, when he says things like that, you can only, just go for what he says, you know, and that's what the fans are looking for. And not just, you know, fans abroad, but mostly his hometown fans right there in Philly who, you know, get a spectacle when they see him, but they rather just see him fight better competition than to see him fight in the hometown.
Right. Yeah, man. I think that at the end of the day, patience, man. Patience. Activity is awesome from a fighter like Jaron Boots Ennis. What he brings to the table, activity is awesome. not only for him, but for us as fans, because we want to see him. I want to see him fight. And I have no problem with him not waiting on negotiations to go ride and money, especially with what he's been through. Just how fighters have priced themselves out of fights with him. How it has to be the biggest amount of money to fight Jaron Ennis. He's never on the right side of, I don't remember the last time I saw Jaron Ennis make an easy fight. You know what I mean? Like make a fight easily. Just put out the offer and it's always this negotiation. It's always weighing out risk versus reward. It's always complicated. So how can I fault him by taking what's available when on the other side of that is drawn out negotiations that are basically turning into extortion tactics, because people start to realize that nobody wants to fight this man without them offering the top amount of money. At what point do I accept the fact that he takes what's available rather than sit here in a lot of politics of sports to drown this man? It is what it is, man.
Well, I think that a part of that solution, would be the kind of put Turkey into his word. I mean, if he said that he got fighters that's there waiting for him, I think he should go ahead and just test those waters. I mean, if you want to have this, test me fight and or acclamations fight in 154, let's go ahead and do that. But after that, if what you want is more money and competition, I think you should go and see what Turkey's talking about, because he said he got fighters waiting for it. We know he got the bag.
Turkey, those fights are there regardless, in my opinion. And I think Turkey is going to end up working with Jaron Boots Ennis when it's all said and done, just like David Benavidez ended up over there, just like a lot of those fighters end up over there. I think that's where you go. But I think activity is important to Jaron Boots Ennis. And I think he's okay with taking a lesser amount of money right now, because it's not about the biggest paydays per se. I think when you look at strategically where he's at in the WBC rankings, the WBO and the WBA rankings, that you can see the moves are being made for him, and he's being positioned where his next fight is going to be huge, and every fight after that is going to be huge as well. I just think it's chess, not checkers, man. I think we're watching it, man. Let's see. Colorado J.R. Spock says if there was a tournament at 154, guaranteed Boots would sit out. I don't agree with that. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't think so. I don't see that. Ill Will says Boots gonna fight his eliminator and go right into a Tellez fight off this with his super belt. That's why Virgil didn't line up. That's why he's trying to lock him in top of the year. Fight Virgil for a title. Yeah. That's another thing as well. Pieces are moving, man. Let's let Virgil's right there. I mean, if I'm Eddie Hearn, I'm taking all these things into consideration. Virgil's right there to get a fight with Sebastian Fundora and get that WBC title. And I want to be honest with you guys. I think like this, and people, but here we go, right? Here we go. Sebastian Fundora is a thorn in the 154-pound weight class division. I don't care what nobody says. I just don't care. So whatever you feel is what you feel. Me personally, I see Sebastian Fundora as one of the most difficult fights at 154. He's awkwardly tall, long arms, puncher, southpaw. It's all there. It checks the boxes as far as awkward is concerned. Now you have him standing behind his jab even more. He's using his physical attributes even more. Bruh, I don't see nothing wrong with allowing Virgil Ortiz to get his shot at Sebastian Fundora, or fight Keith Thurman, then get I don't care, and get a title, man. Let me get a title, you get a title. Our fighter is 10 times bigger. Our fight is 10 times bigger if we're doing a unification. 10 times bigger. Our fight is aging like wine. Our fight, the anticipation behind it, the story behind it, the want from the boxing space of it, it just ages like wine. We don't hurt ourselves not fighting right now. We're betting on ourselves to stay undefeated, to keep getting victories, to stay relevant. We're betting on ourselves, but we're not losing. Outside of us losing a fight, we're not losing on our fight at all. Our fight is just getting more and more and more and more expensive, more money for both of us, and a bigger fight for both of us. You know? Let me see. Fly Frequency says Fundora grew on me, Clay. Yeah, no doubt. Fundora is a very awkward fighter to fight against. I mean, it is what it is. Shout out to everybody who showed support today in the super chats, putting color in the chat. Please remember to hit the like button. I'm pretty much on my way out the door at this point. I don't think I see, people are leaving, which I'm not tripping about because I gotta kind of go myself. Shout out to you, Pop Shop, man. I appreciate you coming up here and building with me, man. Thank you, brother.
Peace, peace.
Salute to all you guys in the building, man. Boxing is in a good space. We do have the fights coming up this weekend. Tomorrow's live. We'll cover all those fights. I want to see that press conference as well. We can speak on the grand arrivals, speak on Moses Atuma and the future of the heavyweight division. We got a undercard that is a great undercard. This fight on Saturday is going to be a great card. Raymond Ford against Abraham Nova. We'll talk about that. Obviously, talk about the other heavyweight fight on there is David Adelaide and Philip Ergovich as well. And I think, and we still got to talk about the revealing of the undercard of as far as on Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez, Lester Martinez versus Christian Mbili, Fernando Vargas Jr. versus Caleb Walsh, and I think we got the young bull, the up and coming fighter from out of Saudi Arabia, Muhammad Al-Khalil. Well, I think he's a great fighter, man. I think he's been turning out to be a great fighter. He isn't big, exciting, stopping everybody, but I think it's going to be his third or fourth professional fight. Undefeated fighter. Looking forward to seeing him fight as well. It is what it is, man. Salute to everybody. Please remember to hit the like button if you haven't subscribed to the channel. Take an opportunity to go ahead and do that as well. Until the next one, it's your boy Rain. It's that ATP Combat Media Show. And at this point, I'm out.